You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
32 minutes, 21 seconds. 5-second tone followed by a 1-second pause.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Okay, gang, let's go.
From the space city called Houston, Texas, welcome to Spaceboy Universe, featuring Spaceboy and the lovely Sir Lana. So strap in and prepare for launch sequence.
Greetings and salutations, I'm Spaceboy,
Lana,
and this is Spaceboy Universe, my bad. It is June 17th, 2017, and tonight our special guest is Leo Phoenix, and if you're good, we might take your calls. As always, you can follow us on Twitter, that's at the SB Universe. Follow Sir Lana at Sir Lana. Follow me, Spaceboy, at Spaceboy Music. And of course, follow the network that brings you all this fine content at the SBU Network. Remember to hashtag your tweets tonight with hashtag SB Universe and hashtag Space Cadets. Of course, Sir Lana, is there another one we want to hashtag tonight?
Let's see. Well, hashtag it, I know. But I do want to point out Leo's social media, art by StudioB.com, Twitter at TheRealLucy's DRM, short for dream, at TheRealLucy's DRM, and of course, Facebook at facebook.com/art by Studio B, and I will get all that tweeted out shortly.
As always, if you want to hang out with the Space Cadets, you can do so by going to spaceboyuniverse.com. Click on the dancing chat bubble, and in the player, you will get in with all the cool kids. In addition to Twitter, you can find the SBU on Facebook, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just look for Spaceboy Universe. Speaking of YouTube, Sir Lana, you can find more than the Spaceboy Universe of archive of shows. There is video content from Spaceboy Music, video interviews, 2-Bit Gamers, and so much more. Can't catch a show live? No problemo. Take the SBU on the go with you via Spreaker, SoundCloud, and iTunes, because, man, we like to broadcast. And on that magical note, how are you, Sir Lana?
I am just reeling from this whole novelty of having another human being in our house.
It is true.
He apparently didn't read the signage below our front door where it said "Go away."
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so
there's an unwelcome mat outside.
Really?
It says "Go away."
Well, I just walked in. You guys took me in, and I'm excited for being here.
Yeah, he preempted you so you wouldn't take the instructions.
He did meet me at the door, right?
Yes,
yeah.
It was like, hey, there is actually somebody here, so I didn't want him to run away.
But he's our first guest.
Yeah, so Leo, that's Leo Phoenix, everybody, and he's our special guest tonight.
In our newly revamped studio where we moved back into the front room because we left it initially because the kid across the street was into basketball, and he has his hoop right square with our driveway for some reason.
Used to.
And then we had the dog.
Poor Tick Foo.
Poor Tick Foo had this old man cough, and then when he went missing and never came back, and then the kid across the street must have discovered girls because now he's drumming.
Yeah,
you can hear him drumming.
Yeah,
so he must be trying to impress the ladies by being a drummer. So now we can move back to the front room.
Which is funny because the people next door, I guess, took the basketball thing and it put it into their backyard.
I don't hear it anymore.
So we were back in the back room and
just wait for puberty and then all the problems will go away.
So many things we talked about. Sir Lana wanted the ability to, like, when we had somebody come over, to be able to just walk in and bam, they're in the studio. So.
Well, you poo-pooed, sorry for that wording, the porta potty thing, so it's not 100% like I wanted to.
Well, it's a strange universe with you, Sir Lana.
Well, K28 did mention the chat, so I can come and be in your studio now. I said, yeah, as long as you go at the sit-go in the corner. So I don't have to clean the rest of the house.
So, as always, Sir Lana, we have banter to talk about. I mean, it seems like we've been away forever and a day.
Well, we took last Friday off unexpectedly to get this room ready, to get it ready for Leo, for our
amazing.
inaugural. Yeah, you spray painted it with a sprayer, and then you actually spray painted it with spray paint to create nebulas and auroras. I don't know what you call this.
Gave me the black lung.
Yeah, I got the black lung, and I wasn't even in this room. I was like, guess what color my boogers are? And I wasn't even in this room.
Very interstellar.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. Sir Loris gave me the third degree about it.
Yeah, she's like, why aren't you wearing a respirator and then this and that and the other? I'm like, because he's a get it done, break the rules to get it done kind of guy.
Yeah, because it was like, man, there was just so much to get done so quickly, and it's done, and I'm happy it's done, and then at some point we'll have more video footage as we originally wanted to do.
Webcam there.
And so there'll be times where we'll have YouTube live stuff as the show is going on. So
all focused on you because I guess he's the pretty one. So
and everybody thinks that you're fake and not there. And
I'm totally okay with that. If you think I'm an AI, that's awesome. Let's make it happen.
So what do you got on the agenda?
Okay, so we do our banter and it covers the 6 topics. So let's just I'll do history real quick.
Sure.
Unless you want to go first.
And I was just going to say, Leo, if you want to chime in on any of these subjects, go right ahead.
Absolutely.
And so talk away. So go ahead and take.
Well, okay, our 6 topics. One of them is history, and I'm just going to do a quick on this day in history. So on this day, 1885. The dismantled body of the Statue of Liberty arrived in New York Harbor, which was shipped from France in 350 individual pieces across the Atlantic Ocean. It was packed in 200 cases or more than that. It's copper and iron, and got reassembled and dedicated the following year in a ceremony that was presided over our president then, which was Grover Cleveland. And, of course, it came known around the world as an enduring symbol of freedom and democracy, but it's actually a giant Illuminati symbol, which I can't get into now, but we will, if you're interested in that as a topic of Illuminati symbols of everyday things that we think is cool, but it's actually not what you think, we can do that at another time.
Okay.
So how about that?
How you like them apples?
Sticking into the conspiracy theory weirdness, but it's actually real, so I'm scared. Hey, Dino, just want to say hey. Chat's hopping.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be tech/fringe. Now, good old Facebook is in the news again. When are they not? They are working to create a smartphone that can read thoughts. So
scary.
let's never go to sleep again. So what they're going to do is, if they can do this, it's going to allow users to think commands and messages at their phones. So, sure, nothing could go wrong with Facebook reading your thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. So, in February, Zuckerberg, our Lord and Master, released a Facebook manifesto. Swear to God, that's what it's called. And in this manifesto, it said a thin veil of altruistic vocabulary, this article says, quote, hid a dystopian vision of a, quote, connected world where the flow of information was overseen and propagated using artificial intelligence and elaborate algorithms. But, wait, there's more. They plan to develop non-invasive sensors that can measure brain activity hundreds of times per second at a high resolution to decode brain signals associated with our language in real time. And that doesn't exist right now, so Zuckerberg says, we need to develop this, because, why not? So Facebook's telling people not to be concerned about their thoughts being constantly read by a machine, because they would only be able to decode words such as one was about to say. Like, I was about to say this, so it's only going to read that part. Mm-hmm. However, the goal of this technology is to read thoughts without them being said, to translate them to computer commands. But they're concerned, this article points out, where is the clear line to be drawn between what it can and cannot read in human thought? And so, I mean, you know, no cause for concern.
That just brings up the subject of transhumanism, you know, going into where combining the machine with the biological, and how we were talking in a previous episode about, if putting, tapping your brain into the internet directly. And so it makes you wonder,
Basically, this is what they want. They want us all to be little worker bee drones and not really have thoughts, or be able to read our thoughts and get them to what they need us to think to get, make all our little cogs and pegs to get the thing done so they can keep all their wealth and control and whatnot. Right?
Yeah.
That's where this is all going.
I agree with you.
This is the end game.
Mm-hmm. So I guess, speaking of the end game, I guess you read in the news recently that Amazon has bought out Whole Foods.
I have, but see, I don't understand why this is in the news. Why is it a cause for concern? I don't eat at Whole Foods because it's expensive to be healthy.
Well, that is,
ding dongs are cheap and plentiful.
It's kind of a niche. It's a niche for back in the 00s. It was like the it thing to do, to go to Whole Foods as an alternative to going to mainstream grocery stores. However, we've known for quite some time that Amazon has had this itch to have their own supermarket chain. With the ability and the concept of the idea of going into a store and being able to take things off the shelf and bam, being charged for it once you go out the front door.
And it's like no cashiers out there.
Right. It's almost like one click pay, like when we do our videos and stuff like that. So let's just face it, Amazon has the money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they have all my money.
I think that I was reading somewhere where they're more money in Amazon than there is in Walmart currently right now.
I believe it.
So they have some money to burn. So this goes hand in hand with their mission to have their own grocery store. I mean, they really want that.
They've got it in Seattle. They've got somewhere like that in Washington. They've got like a prototype where you just walk in and scan.
Well, that was the test program. Apparently, the test program has gone well for them. And with the money, the Whole Foods is it's a nationwide chain. So they can come in.
Again, it doesn't affect my life, so I don't get with a big deal.
Yet. I mean, let's face it, before Amazon, wouldn't you say Amazon has changed your life in a lot of ways?
Yes, but for my convenience.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's changed your life.
Remember that night we ordered a pint of ice cream, a bag of candy, and a desk calendar?
Just to test out the Amazon.
It got here in an hour.
Yeah, we just wanted to test it out to see if it would work.
And it worked.
It
worked
was like
freaking awesome.
Yeah, she got her ice cream, so she was happy.
That's awesome.
And I got a desk calendar, so just to make the order even. So So there you go, Sirlana.
So what is the concern that they're just consuming another big?
Well, we've had this conversation
industry,
before.
and it'll just go away.
First off, going back in time, I told you how, like in the 80s, my family would shop at Target, and that was the thing to go. And then I went to live out towards the late 80s. I went to live with my grandmother out in Bandera, and the only really shopping place you could go to during that time in that area was Walmart. They were small. They were, just a five and dimes kind of thing.
Where I'm from, we didn't even have Target back then.
So, and then that's late 80s. So by the mid 90s, Walmarts are exploding left and right. They're getting big. They're huge. Along with that, you have Sam's. There were
Kmart is starting to decline.
They had Bud's, which was also
Never
a part
heard
of
of
it. Bud was Sam's brother, I believe. But what happened was they, instead of continuing any of the more of the stores called Bud's, they just consolidated it all into Sam's Clubs. Mm-hmm. So a little history there for you. So as time went on, Walmart was great at the beginning. It provided a convenience, but over time, I tell you, I get anxiety going into a Walmart. It's just not what it used to be, and it's
this Walmart closest to us. Something's not right about it, but I went to the one off of Silver, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is normal now.
Yeah. So, but now what I'm saying is that you had the error Walmart, and now it's Amazon time.
Let me date myself. I remember the era of TG and Y. Does anybody else remember that?
Yeah, I remember those.
Turtles, girdles, and yo-yos.
So anyway, that's my thing about
I miss TG.
the Amazon. You know, I'm pro Amazon because it's just a convenience factor to be able to order anything I
until it becomes like By and Large in the Wall-E movie.
Well, I think that's maybe the direction they're
Yeah.
going. So we go for shopping, and some kind of sad news that I'd like to just put out there. Adam West passed away.
Mm-hmm.
The original Batman, which I don't know about you, Leo. How did you feel about the original Batman?
I mean, I remember watching Batman back when, the black and whites, before we had all the cable channels.
Right.
And, it was Adam West and the other little guy running around. So it was in the mornings right before school, and it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
I've met him once. I think he was up in, we were up doing the Stanley Comic-Con, and he was there. He was always a big proponent of the Comic-Cons. But, you always envision Adam West a certain way when you were a kid, and then you see him, it's like, man, time's really taking a toll on him.
Right.
And to see him pass away was pretty sad. That's a whole era. Iconic guy. I mean, he was the Batman.
Right, and he was pretty active up until pretty recently. He was on Family Guy, and so he had parts here and there. And you know what I liked about him, Leo, was what he brought to Batman. It was like, he was educated Batman. He was grammar corrective Batman. He wasn't like Christian Bale.
But he wasn't the musclehead type guy.
Yeah, he used his brain.
Kill, grab.
Yeah,
he was more classic comic book.
Yes,
Batman,
I would say so.
Exactly, very classic comic book.
Not the gritty reboot, the tortured soul that everybody's got.
The darkness of what the most recent vision of Batman's been. I remember. The leotards.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to kick Batman.
Yeah, I think he made. I was watching an episode of Big Bang recently, and how he was talking. He was playing his character, and the other guys who were there, and he was saying how he didn't have to put muscle things in his suit.
Right.
He was 100% West. And
that was him?
Yeah, so it was pretty good. Yeah, so he'll be sorely missed because, like you, Leo, I remember coming home from school and they would play syndication, between that and Gilligan's Island and Star Trek. They had all these things which were syndicated, but Batman was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I remember during the summer. You'd get up at whatever time. You didn't have to get up at 7 or 8 to go to school, and you had your itinerary for that day. You had the Hydra Magini, Gomer Pyle, Batman, Andy Griffith, and then you top it off with the cartoons at the end of the night, and then you do it again the next day.
Right.
So there was that regimented, style of features as a kid. We didn't have 10,000 cable channels back then. It's a little black and white, maybe 10-inch TV in the corner, and you had to literally get up and change the channel and move the rabbit antennas around a little bit. But no, he's an icon. He's going to be sorely missed. He's not going to be forgotten. But that's just a sign of the times, and hopefully they can hold on to a little bit of that. And being in comics and trying to get my comics going, I always go back to the originals.
Oh yeah.
And Adam West was an original. And you don't make those up. You're either an original or you're not.
Right.
But that's kind of where I sit with that. He's going to be sorely missed, and he's an icon. And people need to realize once we lose icons, they're gone. All you have left is a memory.
Right.
I always go back to not to kind of put Adam West to the side, but Stan Lee.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me what Stan Lee's done for comics and movies. He's changed everything influenced everything from comics to movies. So once the icons leave, they leave.
Right.
But you need to kind of harness, and I always tell everybody, hey man, if you get a shot, meet him. At least meet him. You can say, hey, look, I met this guy, because Mr. Lee's up there, just like a Dr. Seuss. I wish I would have met Dr. Seuss at the time. You're in college, you're doing all this. Everybody lives forever. Then you start to realize, hey man, there's some important facets that I needed to check off, which sometimes you kind of let it slip by, and next thing you know, you kind of miss that boat. But Adam West is one of them, and I'm sure, unfortunately, the way life is, we're going to lose some more. Hopefully there's some other ones coming up and coming, and hopefully some of it will be my work, and that's why I kind of come in with you guys. And I just want to thank you guys for having me tonight, and I think it's going to be a great show. I think it's a very free flowing show, and I really, really like that. So.
Okay, well, just remember to speak a little closer to the mic. Yeah, I think
Sure.
the audience was saying they could barely hear you, but no,
Sorry, guys.
Oh,
is this
there we
better?
go. Oh, yeah.
Don't
much
blow it
better.
out.
There we go.
Here we go.
Yeah, okay.
It's like a rock show. I was at a rock show last night. They blew my ears out.
Oh man.
Well, right you are about your idols and Stan Lee and Batman or Adam West, and I personally agree with you, and we can get into that a little bit more, and I could talk to you about that.
Sure.
Because I got a chance to meet my musical idols, Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe
Wow.
of the Pet Shop Boys. And
Oh, yeah. I remember those guys.
Yeah, and so
Numbers.
Yeah, so oh yeah, back in the day, man.
Oh, man.
in Montrose.
Depeche Mode. Hell, they're still there.
Yes, so good stuff. But speaking of animation, they're bringing back DuckTales. And I don't know, do you remember DuckTales?
I do remember DuckTales.
So
One of
they're
the best opening theme songs ever.
and they're recapturing they're not going to go back and mimic the animated series. I guess it was late 80s or late 90s, and but what they're doing is they're drawing from the comic books of that they originally were based upon, where Scrooge McDuck was a little bit more, rougher and
A little sinister.
Yeah, and then of course, what was a big hit with the animated series in the late '90s was Launchpad. Was it Launch?
Yeah, just Launchpad.
Yeah, Launchpad. They're going to take him away because he was the comic relief in the original series. So they're bringing Donald Duck back. And so it's going to be fun to see Donald be a part of that, because in that animated series they kind of took him away. So it's going to be great, and the animation that they have going on, Leo, it's just phenomenal. It has
Sort
that
of retro Japanesey look.
Yeah, it has a nice retro look to it. And when I'm saying retro, I'm not saying 80s retro. We're going back to the original, time of.
It's an interesting look.
We're looking 50s, 60s?
50s, probably,
yeah,
maybe.
But there's
Maybe further back.
there's a hint of a Japanese look to it too.
It's I can't say 60s, because when I think 60s, I think of that Roadrunner
Hanna-Barbera stuff. to me.
Yeah, Hanna-Barbera, late Roadrunner. With
Right.
Yeah, so
Maybe Dennis will put it up there.
Yeah, usually Dennis and our crack team
Or
of media
Bob will do it.
specialists. Post some original DuckTales of this new show up there for him to see. So, what were you going to say, Solano?
Whenever you're done, I want to go next.
Okay, go. Well, you're up. I just wanted to bring up DuckTales because we were talking about animation.
Gaming.
Oh, yes.
This one I didn't tell you. An artificial intelligence that was developed by Microsoft has done something, and it's one of mankind's greatest achievements.
Okay, this is not that other thing that we were talking about.
It has got the highest score on the Atari 2600 version of Mrs. Pac-Man.
Uh-oh.
So, we can go to the moon. We can kill people efficiently from across the world. But can we beat Mrs. Pac-Man? Well, now somebody can. The AI didn't just beat a human's high score from Mrs. Pac-Man. It actually achieved a perfect score of 999,990 points. And the AI was the first, meaning this AI may also have the capacity to beat a human to death, which it could be overaction, but, I thought you would find that interesting.
Well, what bothers me about that is that, wasn't Microsoft, we talked about this before, where they developed some AI for the Twitter universe?
Oh, yeah, Tay.
Tay?
Yeah, it went
It went bonkers.
If you want it to learn from humanity, you're not going to get the best of the best on Twitter and social media. You're going to get trolls.
Well, yeah.
And they taught it all the bad things that trolls do, and it did what it was supposed to do. It fit right in with the trolls.
So now we have an AI that's capable of being the ultimate troll and can kick your butt at Pac-Man or Miss
Yeah.
Pac-Man. So
you won't notice. Yeah.
well, it's kind of cool to hear about
There's
that.
a gnat or something in here.
I was like, what you waving in? See, look up there at there's the kind of the.
Oh yeah.
We're looking on the jumbo screen behind Solana.
I just take a picture of that for Kay because
yeah.
Kay likes to look at this thing.
But yeah, the new DuckTales, how it's
I can see that.
Yeah, drawn. It's definitely different from the late '90s, and it's really got a great look to it.
And I just had 2 more things I want to mention.
Yeah, but I wanted to bring
Go
up. Yeah, you brought up Miss Pac-Man.
Oh yeah, I figured that would start something.
Yeah, so get a load of this. Atari is coming back.
Oh yes, I know.
Apparently, they are creating a new Atari that can play the old games. Yes, I'm talking about the original 2600 games, and it'll have HDMI and all that good stuff. I don't know the extent of any kind of new games that'll be able to play on the system, but it looks really cool, Leo. It's a square-looking box, but if you remember the old consoles, how it had that fake wood grain.
I remember.
Yeah, so on part of it has like that fake wood grain. It has a top-loading device where you can stick your cartridges in, and it almost looks like Alienware video games you can buy off of Dell, where it's got like a piece of the corner kind of just chiseled off.
Yeah.
And it gives you the options of playing with the original joysticks or USB, and I don't know when it's supposed to hit the market, but I've heard maybe possibly this fall. But I'm just excited by the fact that
Well, you're an old school gamer.
I am an old school gamer. In fact, I've got some Atari stuff up there too. But
I remember when those came out, we couldn't afford it, so I had to go across the street and pay a quarter to the neighbor.
okay,
It was bad.
I'd never had a neighbor that was like, it was like when the kids all hung out together. It was like it was a big deal, spending hours upon hours,
Oh, absolutely, every summer.
Yeah, so something to do, yeah, and but yeah, I just had to bring that up. Solana, you have some more things? We're
Just 2
getting
more. I discovered, and I'm probably the last human on earth to discover this music genre, but I discovered a new music genre, and I just wanted to mention it. I was watching on YouTube, This Is Dan Bell, his series about dead malls, where he goes in with his camera and he films malls that are dying or just about dead.
Wow, that sounds cool.
It's cool. This is Dan Bell on YouTube.
Yeah.
But he also has one I love called Dirty Rooms, where they go rent a nasty hotel room and they just go through the hotel room and show you all the disgusting things.
Oh,
no,
it was
you
nasty.
wanna see.
It was like
I doubt you'd stay in a place like this, but it's really like. But I discovered this watching his Dead Mall series because he plays this music by these artists, and the music genre is called vaporwave. And it's I looked it up on knowyourmeme.com. The description is vaporwave is a musical genre inspired by electronic dance music, EDM. It's kind of a blend of new age and indie dance genres, chill wave, and sea-punk. And I've not heard of sea-punk. Vaporwave is known for its use of Japanese characters and song titles, 80s smooth jazz, and Muzak samples that have been pitch shifted, time stretched with music editing software, which Spaceboy understands. Mm-hmm. And it's described as a satire of corporate and consumerist culture and modern capitalism, specifically as a critique of mainstream EDM. Now, I will link this on Twitter, an example that's been haunting my brain. Imagine, I've never smoked an illicit substance in my life, but I imagine this must be the soundtrack to what that feels like. So I'm going to put that in Twitter. So
it is very trippy in a way, and in fact, there's some of it.
It's on Spotify and on if you just type in Vaporwave on Spotify or YouTube, you'll get plenty of examples.
There was a time, I'm trying to think back, early, probably about around 2004, where it was called screw music, where they would take the music, and a lot of R&B and rap, and they would slow it down to a point. It was
kind of like that.
Barry White.
Well, that you get that
very
deep,
strange.
and then things that were like about 120 beats a minute would be like, So you can imagine just taking that old school rap and then slowing it down. But this music has definitely an 80s feel to it, and it has synthesizers, and it's just really trippy.
And what's it called?
It's called
Vaporwave.
Vaporwave.
Yeah.
Look for it on either Spotify or YouTube. Has tons and
save
tons
it.
of examples. I just tweeted one to the universe and to myself, and it's the one that keeps playing in my head, and I'm like, okay, this needs to stop now.
But good stuff. So, Lana, we reached the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, I guess I'll just skip these two then.
What was there anything juicy in there in that one?
Pop culture and the French science, the thing about Robert Bigelow.
Oh,
That's all.
yeah. Well, we could share that a little bit later here.
Okay, that's
so
fine.
let's go ahead and take our break. So you're listening to Space Boy Universe. I am Space Boy. She's Solana. And our special guest in studio for the first time is Leo Phoenix. So don't touch that dial.
Body Machino.
Чего не видели, собираетесь в травму.
Machino.
Hey, it is Spaceboy here. Those first song was Crash, and the second one was Solaris. And, you know, I know people have been kind of like wondering, where's been Spaceboy music? Well, I've taken a little hiatus because I'm working on new music, and, you know, and plus Ty has requested Christmas music, and I've got to get myself into gear to create some
original Christmas music.
So, you know, I try to live up to that expectation, and hopefully I get that done.
Anyone is even wondering where Sweet Tea and Sarcasm is, that's the show that airs when it darn well feels like it. So I'll keep you updated when it may happen.
So at the end of the day, chill, K28. We're back in the studio. We're back. We'll get you taken care of. And so just know that Spaceboy Universe is back and live and in command is all you need to know. So with that said, you know, Solana, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned how we do interviews on YouTube, correct?
Yes, video interviews.
Video interviews. We were at Comic Palooza, as many of y'all know, and out of that, we did many interviews. And so I like to start this off by saying that when we were there was one I'm getting tongue-tied.
Exhibition?
Thank you very much. Exhibit is what I'm looking for.
An exhibitor.
Thank you, Leo. And it was this beautiful art that really just stood out. And so, as I told Leo this many times, and trying to build his ego up, is that I was just drawn to it like a moth to a flame kind of thing.
Did we approach him as normal people, or were you in the suit?
I don't know.
First time.
No, you were in a suit.
I was.
You stood out a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you know, I don't know.
I know.
I think we came back and you were suited up.
I was suited up when you came back.
Yeah, with the ball cap and everything. And
that's right.
But it was just phenomenal, the art that you had on display.
I appreciate that.
And so, I build this up, and so at this point, I can't do it any justice. So, Leo, give us a bio about you.
Yeah, are you a native Texan or Houstonian?
Houstonian, from Houston to Wobble. Depends on what happens. Whatever happens, we'll be basing out of Houston. I know we've done some trips up to L.A. and got some pretty good reception down there, but no, I mean, everything I do. And first of all, I want to really appreciate you guys inviting me in to your studio. I'm having a blast. This is really, really fun. The artwork that I do is, it all happened kind of by chance. People ask me, well, how did you start this technique? I said, well, it didn't. It just kind of happened. I work in nothing but paper, X-Acto knife, and fabric glue. And the way the story evolves was back in 1989. I'm kind of dating myself a little bit.
It's okay.
In college, we were poor college kids, and I decided to enter an auction. And the auction, do whatever, make a little bit of money, put some money in your pocket, and move forward. So an acrylic piece, a small acrylic piece, was created of this Dali-esque fish with all these different color scales. I'm trying to get that piece back, by the way. Mm-hmm. Hopefully the collector that I think still has it doesn't know it's a published book now. Created it, sent it out to the auction. Didn't even go. I probably spent about $30 on the paints and brushes. Well, it sold for $30. It was I was told it was a big hit. A year later, I tried to buy the piece back. We ended up in the collector's home where he kept all his collection. Couldn't find it. Went outside to the back door, across the street into his real home. Found it in his daughter's room. He says, I can't sell this back to you. He goes, this is my daughter's favorite. So that was kind of the first inkling that, hey, man, maybe there's something here. But being a kid, you don't think about it. So, you graduate. I came back to Houston, started working. Then one day I said, maybe I should do one of these in paper. So I went and I discovered Canson, which I'm plugging them, and hopefully one day they can reimburse me by handing me a bunch of free paper. But I created the first Lucy's Dream back in '95 in paper. And the funny thing, after that, I wasn't really a serious artist at that point. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a big graphics person. I'm sure you guys remember 30-something. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be that guy. The head guy of an advertising agency.
Right.
That was the dream. So in '96, the original Lucy's Dream went in the garage.
And what is Lucy's Dream for our listeners?
Lucy's Dream is a story of this little girl that has these dreams, basically dreamland. She falls asleep. As she's falling asleep, and then at the same time as she wakes up, she's tumbling through space. As she tumbles through space, there's a portal that's very colorful in the darkness of space that leads her through a rainbow called a rainbow sphere. When she's falling on the rainbow sphere, she lands in dreamland, a very Dali-esque, very Dr. Seuss type setting, big influences. And then she meets this character called Billy the Bus. And Billy kind of takes over and goes through dreamland with all the other characters. B2 Brad, B52 Sam, the Balloon Brigade, Phoenix the Flying Dolphin, Maddox the Astronaut. And then there's these bad guys called the Sunblockers. She didn't know anything about. The Sunblockers basically block the sun to the flowers. Inside the Sunblockers, there's the flower grabbers and the daisy cutters. The daisy cutters have these big scissors, and they cut the flowers, and the flower grabbers grab the flowers. Their main goal is to get to Dreamland's golden flower patch. And with all the other characters in Dreamland, from Phoenix the Flying Dolphin to Thomas the Talking Fish to B-52 Sam, B-2 Brad, what those guys do is they push the Sunblockers back with light. And that's a common theme of the story. People, or you probably will ask me, who is Lucy? And I said, well, I always tell people, I'm glad you asked that, because I'm not going to define who Lucy is at this point. I'm going to, once, the book and the theme gets better known out there, I'm going to let people kind of play with it. Mm-hmm. My whole deal with Lucy now, I don't know if she's going to be a little girl having these dreams, an alien having these dreams, or a computer that was left on after everything's said and done that's regenerating these images. Yeah. And I really like that concept because just for the few people that I've come across, the few thousand at the Comic-Cons and LA and Houston, they really embrace that idea, because I think the public can actually write who Lucy is one day. Mm-hmm. But that's we want that movie, we want that cartoon, and we want all that stuff before we divulge who Lucy really is going to be.
I like that concept of the dream thing. You know what it reminds me of, Sir Lana, is Google. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that, Leo? Where Google, where they have this special program.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. It's like an LSD filter or something.
I mean, what it is Google feeds this information into a computer, or they've created some kind of AI to allow it to dream.
Wow.
And the results are really interesting, because there's where the dream, you look at it and, you could see common things in it, but it's all made out of, say, dogs.
You see dog faces
you see
in
dog
it.
Faces.
And this is Google?
Google,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
It's a strange algorithm they have to make it trippy.
Well, that I beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly.
I beat them.
So, but
wow.
I like the concept of
trademark and copyright.
The idea of okay, here's the story. You're being dropped into this story right here, but as you're going along, you initially you don't ask the question of what are her origins.
Right.
Or, and
exactly, and that's what happens.
And I love stories like that. I mean, because I like in comics, you definitely like Marvel and DC, you get the one person you might think is great. Like, for example, I hate to change the story real quick, but like, for example, Steve Rogers in the comics right now, we're finding out that he is Hydra.
Right.
And so it was like all this time, here's this red-blooded American guy, and we're finding out, wait a minute, he's a bad guy. And
bummer.
Yeah, I know, bummer.
Red.
And then Deadpool has decided to be a part of his team.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know you probably hadn't heard about that too. But anyway,
we're done.
So back to you, Leo.
I want to know more about his journey to this point. Was he creative as a kid? Did he have influences and support along the way?
Absolutely. I mean, I always tell people, and I just had this conversation the other night at a bar. We were helping a cause, an artistic cause there. I'm at the Silos, and my origins. I have 5 simple concepts and 5 simple influences that I surround myself in the studio with. And one very first one, I got a lot of flack from my parents. Very simple. Back in '73. Kiss was the Marilyn Manson of the time. You know, they were very demonic looking and fire, blood, the whole 9 yards. So they really captured my vision. And being the eldest, of course, I didn't have a big brother to rely on to get me all the comic books or the magazines. But their makeup really captured my imagination. And I went from Pilgrims and Indians to Kiss, and that was my climbing of the next rung. I'm serious. Yeah. I had Pilgrims Indian to Kiss, and I would literally have to hide the Kiss cards that I used to come and buy from school every day for 16 cents. I always had that penny, and that guy would always get pissed at me because I always had 15 cents, but I was missing that penny. So I'd have to hide them under the bed because my dad was like, you know, being Catholic, you know, you can't have no demon here. Right. You know, So they were the initiators of what I think really sparked my interest in art. Of course, later, very recent, right after that was like 73, 74. I was probably in second grade. In 77 came the next huge step, which was Star Wars. And that really, George Lucas and those guys, they really took off in my mind. In 1980... me and a buddy one summer took an 8mm camera, which is in my studio, and we did a 4-minute stop-motion movie, which I have in my studio, of the scene of where the AT-AT walkers attacked the stronghold of the rebel force with the AT-AT walkers, the snow speeders, Luke Skywalker throwing the bomb underneath the belly of the deal. I mean, it's amazing. From there, of course, came my college years, my latter part in the mid 80s. The big influences kind of started taking effect, and that was Suess and Dali. And but you know what? One of the things I was talking to actually a buddy of mine, another artist, and I told him I'd throw him a code word out there. It gets really wavy in here, so there you go. The thing with that was that. At that point in time, you know, I knew of those guys, but it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. I didn't really know them because I didn't study them in depth. I knew their surface work. I knew what the melting clock was, but I didn't know how Dali came across the melting clock. I knew the Dr. Seuss pieces, but I never read the book of The Places You Will Go, Horde and Here's a Who. So, I mean, you know, looking back, I think if I would have really known who those guys were, then some of my stuff that you see now, you would have said, is that a Dr. Seuss? They've never mistaken my stuff up to this point, and this is thousands of people looking at my stuff saying, we've never mistaken, hey, that's a Dr. Seuss. They say, we see the influences, and we see some of the detail, but we know that's your stuff, which, to me, that's what I want to hear.
That's what struck me is when we went up to your booth at Comic Palooza, the first one has the kind of the orange background. You have like the Horton Hears a Who elephant, but it's in the Dali elephant with the extended legs. Right. So it's like a mashup. It's like a visual mashup, exactly. Of an audio mashup.
You know, and that was just a tribute. That was a tribute.
But it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it is.
And an original.
You know what happened with that? I was really, really leery to put that one out there because you have true Dali and true Seuss fans out there that would literally pin you against the wall if you don't do it right. That one took me 6 months. And, you know, I've been to Houston, did several Comic Cons in the last few years, and did the LA thing too. And I've taken it with me, and I'm batting 1,000. Every super Dali fan, big fan, has come to me and says, "Look, I love it. It's beautiful." Blah blah blah.
It's a fresh take. I liked it immediately when I saw it, and so a fresh take on two things, bringing it together, and I think that's what makes it special.
It's all cut paper, and every song has a hook. I believe that my hook is a color. Because this is what happens every single time in the studio. People walk by, they see the color, like
it catches your eye.
Well, we had to stop and come back, and then they think from afar, kind of they start creeping like a cat, and they look and I go, "Come on in," and that's all I say because I've learned not to say anything up until the point to where they're like, "Oh wow, it's paper." I said, "Yeah, it's paper," because they think it's an illustration, they think it's acrylic oils, and then they realize it's all cut, and that's the hook to the art, like a hook to a song. That's what keeps them coming back. And I didn't know I had a signature style till 3 years ago. I've been staring. I always tell young artists and other artists, I said, sometimes your style, your signature style is looking at you in the face, but you're so busy looking through it that it's invisible to you. Sometimes you need to take a step back, really look at what you're doing. And me personally, what I believe is, you put yourself out there. That's the only way you're really going to know where you're at. Being safe and staying in the safe zone doesn't work. Throw yourself out there. The public's either going to make you or break you. And those are the ones that are going to follow you. Your family, your art friends, even some of your artist judges like to be in some of these organizations, which I'm not against, but it's the public. The public's really going to make you or break you when it comes to being an artist. If you're original enough, people are really going to take focus and take account of you. I've had many artists say, well, they like my art, but they want me to change this, or they want me to do that. Knock on wood. I've never had that problem. And I think that's because it's original enough, and it's evolved, and it's not something that happened last week or last month or last year. This is something that's been evolving. It's been simmering there for over 20-something years, and I think I'm ready now. Maybe 95 I wasn't ready, mature enough, I don't know. But I think I'm ready now. The last 3 years, I've gone in leaps and bounds, and I'll see where I'm at. I mean, I see where I head from this point on. But but it's been an interesting ride. So I kind of stopped with Dali and Dr. Suess, my influences, because that was a big factor in a lot of what I've done. But in the latter part, it's been Marvel and Stan Lee. I mean, you encapsulate Kiss, Star Wars, Dali, Suess, and Marvel. You compress it, you get Lucy's Dream and my comic book, Scuff Lab Comics, Sci-Fi, the Secret Center of Invention and Future Advancement. That's what you get. And that the comic book we'll get to later. Okay. That is another amazing story in its own on how that came about.
Well, I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. Were you about to say something?
Well, I'd like to interject a little
interjection,
fluffy lightheartedness.
Okay, go ahead.
Leo, as somebody who's an artist or somebody that creates, you do your own thing. Do you ever stop and you make something and maybe you asked a loved one, or it's like, well, what do you think? Or you're like, that's it. That is what I'm done. This is perfect, just like the way I want it. Out it goes, because I'm asked the situation because this one here will create original music like he does and then have me come in and critique it, and I'm like, please don't do this to me. Are you happy with it? Is this everything you would want it to be? Does it say what you want to say? Then, like, what do you care what anybody thinks? So what is your take on that?
Loved ones, I know the response. I know my response is, it's great. We love it. So
because they love you.
Yes, exactly. They're not going to want to hurt your feelings. And this is one of the reasons that I say that I kind of get out of that comfort zone when it comes. Even at the studio, people know that you're going to go see art. It's a very safe zone for a lot of people. But to answer your question, probably not. Just for that simple factor that if I want a true response, if it's something a little more lighthearted, like, hey man, what do you think about this character, or whatever, maybe. But generally, it's going to be a pretty positive response. So I kind of try to stay with that. The kids always love all my stuff. The smaller kids, they're like my little models and my little test monkeys for the shirts and the caps. And if it looks cool on them, it's going to look cool on all of them because I have great looking kids. So. But now, I kind of try to stay away from that. And then, plus, most of my family is not very artistic, bound. So, I'm going to be a realist. I'm only going to put stuff out there that I feel that is professional quality and good enough to reflect who I am. And I'm going to be the bottom sayer on that, regardless of what anybody says, because I'm either going to fly this ship or I'm going to crash this ship.
You listening over there?
Well, and full disclosure.
I hope I didn't get you. I don't want no fights here.
No. Actually, our audience knows us well. We mix it up with a little bickering, and it just stirs the pot.
It's
but it's
just
all
called
good.
Marriage.
It's called marriage. But no,
believe me, I know about that.
But in all fairness, I only bring that up to, like, for example, I wrote a song for a show another show, and it sounded good, but I was like, I don't know, it's just missing something. And so, of course, I run out of here and, hey, come on.
Drags me out of bed.
Out of bed. It's
Oh,
like,
my God.
yeah, I know, exactly.
First mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if you're going to drag me over here, I'm going to give it to you.
So, and she says, this show, it's rock and roll. It's in your face, and you're missing guitar. You've got all these guitars.
You're sitting in front of 6 guitars. You don't pick one up.
And I don't pick one up. And it's something I needed to hear. It was because I don't like to think that I'm not unwilling to. See, I don't want to go down a path and get blocked in, and I think at that point it was like, I know I'm trying to create something special here.
You were doing everything you knew to do with all the tools you usually use, and you did that spectacularly. But you needed
to take
add
it one step,
something to take it into the right genre.
But see, but I understand. I understand. Okay, now what your question is? I mean, because you guys are in the business. I mean, I'm just talking about, maybe my brother or somebody said, "Oh, hey man, what do you think about this?" They're not in the business. You guys are in the business, so you understand what he's capable of, and what maybe else you need to add. And if you're sitting in front of 6 guitars and you're not using one of them, maybe you should. And maybe she's right. But I can see exactly what.
Of course, 2 of them are broken, but whatever.
But anyway, at the end of the day, it worked out, and sure, there might have been a little friction because she hates coming in. I guess she's trying to spare my feelings, and at that point, I'm just saying, look, I
said, can you channel Jimi Hendrix or something?
I need you to. I know it's missing something. Let's break it here, and so I can fix it.
Give it to me straight.
Give it to me straight.
Yeah.
And I think that it bothers her to some degree. Yeah.
Well, just that's an isolated case, but you'll have some things like, this is not my cup of tea, and I don't know how to tell you, but that doesn't mean there won't be others who would like it.
Right, like when she's listening to German angst polka music. Yeah, it's not my cup of tea.
I've never heard of that, but now I'm going to go look for it.
Well, anyway, on that magical note, Sirlana,
break time.
Yeah, it's break time, so I like to stand and fight. So don't go anywhere, anybody.
are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sirlana.
That's right. Tonight we are exploring the universe with Leo Phoenix. And Sirlana, did you have something on the plate there over there?
I've got like 17 questions
Well,
in case we hit a slump or something.
Well, if you've got a question, go ahead and ask.
So, we were talking about being creative and, getting input if you think you need it. Let's see. And we've talked about what Lucy's dream is. So, have you had what you think is so far, I know you're still on your journey with your artwork, but so far, have you something that's been like the ultimate experience for you so far?
Ultimate experience
as an artist, maybe you showed somewhere or you met somebody and like this, you're like, this is it. I can't top this yet. Or,
there's been a few. I mean, Kiss being one of my big influences, initial influences. Of course, I've met all those guys.
Oh, wow, cool.
I've met Gene, Paul, Ace. Actually, if you go to my Facebook, you'll see me in promoting the Lucy's Dream book with Ace in his tour bus about 1:00 in the morning here in Houston about 4 months ago. Peter Criss, he's very, very difficult to get to. I met him.
So that meant a lot.
Yes.
You're like,
but Stan Lee. I mean, the funny story with Stan Lee and the piece that we were talking about earlier, the Dali, the Dr. Seuss incorporated into my Lucy's Dream, the orange one, there, all cut paper. And I did a tribute to Marvel also, which I did not have at the show. And 2 years ago, not last Halloween, but the Halloween before that, I did the Stan Lee Comic-Con. And Max Anderson, being Stan Lee's handler that handles all his production and people and gets the crowd moving there, I approached him and I said, "Hey, Max, I'm an artist and I would like Stan Lee to put his final touches on a couple of my pieces." And he asked, "Is this Stan Lee's work or your work?" I said, "No, it's my work." So he said, "Sure, stand right here and just give me a minute." So at that point, I'm standing there, and then you start getting all these movie stars coming in, and they start doing the photo shoots, and the whole thing's with Stan, and you got 300 people running through there, and he's autographing like crazy. And then comes my turn. He goes, "Come on in," and pretty much it was just me, Stan Lee, and his crew. And I put both pieces in front of Mr. Lee, and I said, "Mr. Lee, I'm out here in Houston. Houston, L.A., promoting my artwork. I'd be honored if you put your final touches on these pieces." I said, "This is a tribute to Marvel, and this is a tribute to Dr. Seuss and Dali, all incorporated into my style." And I said, and you and Dr. Seuss having something very much in common, I want you to put your autograph next to the Horton. If you guys don't know, Dr. Seuss and Stan Lee were both in the U.S. Army together in World War II. 4 major artists came out of that unit, and those were two of them. I don't recall the other two. He looks up at me and he says, "They're going to think these are mine." And he smiles, and then he puts his autograph on them, and I was just stoked. And I was wearing a Billy the Bus cap. He goes, "Is that your cap?" I said, "Yes, sir." I took it off. I said, "You mind signing it?" So he autographed it. So I have all that in the studio. But those are pretty memorable things because, like we were talking about earlier, there's icons and then there's icons. And I think Stan is one of those guys. He's evolved over time. He stayed with it. He never quit. That's something I always preach. I mean, there's 3 things in common. I've spoken to Tim Bradstreet, I've spoken to Jim Steranko, and I've spoken to Stan Lee. And what those 3 guys have in common is that they never quit. Tim Bradstreet once told me in L.A., I think it was the same trip. He says, "You know what the problem with young artists these days is?" I said, "No, what is it?" He goes, "They get frustrated. They quit too soon, never meet their true potential." I said, "Man, that's true." He goes, "If you have something unique enough, people will come back to it, but you got to stay with it." I ran into Jim Steranko, which Jim explained to me how he got the job with Stan Lee. And it was kind of amazing because he was kind of his end's wit when he walked into Stan Lee's office wanting to talk to him. And the secretary says, "No, Stan just doesn't see you off the street." So he grabbed her by the arm and put the artwork on an armpit. And she walked in there and he says, and then she comes back and she goes, "Mr. Lee will see you now." He says, "We sat there and we spoke about everything under the moon except art for about an hour or so." He goes, at the end, Mr. Lee says, "You know, your art's very crude, but has a lot of energy." He goes, "Pick one of the 5 stories behind me and go with it." He goes, "Well, I couldn't pick the Hulk." I couldn't pick Spider-Man. That was Jack Kirby, Joe Simon. Those guys were amazing, and there's no way I can compete. He goes, I took the least likely story that was the least favorite. He goes, I worked on the Shield. And he's the one, he look at the Shield now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I spoke to Jim Steranko, this was before I kicked off my art career. This was the summer, I think it was it was our 13. I think it might have been July 13th, one of the Comic Paloozas when Jim Steranko was here. And I spoke to him, and I said, and one of the last things I told him, I said, Mr. Lee, this is before I even started my art career again. This is the funny part. And I just said, I said, I hope that one day I'm where you're at. And he looked at me and he says, do it long enough and you will. So the three things in common that I always take from those three conversations from those people is, you know, Stan Lee did make it till he was almost 40. He was 39. They almost quit. They almost went bankrupt. Tim Bradstreet is don't quit till you meet your true potential. And Mr. Steranko is one of the fifth best comic book artists, I think, in the United States, is do it long enough. So they all have a common theme. They never quit. Jim Steranko when he told me when he walked into Stan Lee's office, he says, man, I was at my end's wit. I'd already been denied by DC. I had no job. He goes, I lied. I told him that, you know, DC was going to hire me. But he goes, I had nothing. So all those guys have been at the bottom of the barrel. And the problem is, the key thing with those guys is that they believed in what they did. And I mean, just those key parts there, I mean, have played a big role in what I do. I always tell young artists is, don't reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already been invented. Add your own spoke to the wheel that makes you stand out on that wheel. Mm-hmm. Don't repave the road, man. The road's already been paved. Add your own groove. And I truly believe that because everything's already been done. The key part as an artist now is how do you set yourself apart from the other 10 million? That's the hard part. If we all had that key, we'd all be Stan Lee.
Right.
And that's my little spiel, at least part of it, to some of the young artists that are coming up, and to some of the artists that are out there trying to make it right now, because I feel very, very grateful that I do have a unique style. Even though there's many people out there that can cut paper better than me, I don't have a problem with the challenge, because you can copy my work, but there's so much depth in my work with the storylines, with everything that goes into it, that I feel like, hey, look, you can copy, and that, you know, you're just going to kind of bolster me a little bit because I love competition. And I don't know who the next guy that I'm going to influence. You know, I don't know if I'm going to influence the next Picasso. You know, and I'll tell you a quick story about a career day that I was only going to share with here at the first time. I did a career day on the 18th of May at Elsick High School, the 9th grade art program. And I was sitting there, and I was doing a panel with a defense attorney. I was in the middle, and one of the guys from the Dynamo. So we all had our shot to talk. So the Dynamo guy's up there. He's a British guy. He's up there. He's talking, doing his spiel. You know, the little kids are listening. All of a sudden, out of the blue, this kid comes rushing into the room, breathless. And the Dynamo guy stops, and in his British accent, he says, lad, out of breath, you know, or whatever. You know, I can't do a British accent. Come on in, welcome. You know, and the kid's like, just kind of crawls in at that point because the panel's already began. And so he sits him down, and I guess the British guy, the Dynamo guy, proceeds to want to know, you know, why are you out of breath? So he goes, so why are you out of breath? And this is what keeps me going. And this is what keeps a lot of artists going. And this is when you know that you're kind of going up the right tree, barking up the right tree. The kid goes, man, I was trying to get down here to see the comic book guy. You know, and that was me. Mm-hmm. So everybody kind of, you know, started clapping. And everyone was like, man, you know, that's an honor. I don't know who this kid is. How do you know who I am? Mm-hmm. You know, so, I mean, obviously word's out there, and, you know, some of these guys are starting to like some of the stuff that get a little bit of following. But that's the kind of stuff that, as an artist, you feed off of, and that you kind of know that you're going in the right direction when you have these kids, especially teenagers, that you can actually grab their attention for at least a microsecond, and hold that lightly in there, and it gives you that little bit of energy. But that was a story that I'll tell forever. That kid running out of breath trying to get there, and all he wanted to do was talk to me. So that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool little deal.
Awesome.
So can he go ahead and talk about his comic or how that came about and what it entails?
I really want to just say quickly, you have spoken words of wisdom, some inspiration, if you will, and I think it was another thing I just want to add to what I said at the beginning of the program, is that one, I was drawn to your artwork, and then two, hearing how the old adage, and I'm going to twist it a little bit, never give up, never surrender.
Galaxy Quest.
Thank you very much. And so it's true, because, when Solana and I, especially me, when I start retrospecting about how we started our program, we've come a long way. And from our humble beginnings of Mike on her side and Mike on mine in this very room that we're in now. And now, we have real desks now, so it's exciting.
We're moving up in the word, real desks.
Hey, to me, this is a real shop. I like it, man. This is really, really cool.
We had plastic folding tables back there.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, every step of the way, I've just there have been some moments where man, I just don't know how we can continue, and we've had our adversity, when thinking that the program wouldn't go any further, but we kept putting one foot after another
forward.
You
got to keep going.
Well, let me give some more words of inspiration here, because this is what happened to me. The guys at my graphics team, I call them my graphics team, Cura Media. They're the sellers with me. It's all in house. They've been awesome in helping me develop who I am, and the brand and everything. The Brian, Deidre, Candace, all those guys. This is what happened to me. I'm in there one day, and we're going over the layout of the book. We're going over things, and I'm over there bickering to myself, saying, "Man," I said, "it feels like I'm spinning my wheels, man." And then Brian looks at me and says, "Wait, what do you mean?" I said, "Man, it feels like I'm going nowhere." Whoa. He goes, "Let me put it to you this way." He goes, "Leo, you've been here 7 months with us." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Go back. Step back a little bit." I said, "Okay." He goes, 7 months ago, he goes, "You didn't have anything." And he goes, I don't mean anything like nothing. You had the artwork. You had a good concept. He goes, "You didn't have a book published." He goes, "You have a book published now." He goes, you wrote the next 3 books. He goes, "You have a comic book. You have 2 issues of those." He goes, "You went to L.A. for the second time. And then on the second time, a week later, you actually flew back and met with Stan Lee's Kids Universe people." He goes, "Tell me where you're spinning your wheels." Mm-hmm. I said, "Brian, you're right." I said, "So now what I do is," and this is what I tell young artists too and everybody, is kind of look back every 6 months. Are you making progress? Then you stick with it. If you're regressing, then you make an adjustment. And that's kind of the way I see it now, because I was bitching and complaining, I'm spinning my wheels, but literally I was making a lot of progress. I mean, when I got my first studio at Aurora back in July 14, I didn't have anything. I wasn't even going to work in paper anymore. I was doodling. I had these really cool doodles on calendars. And then one day I did one Billy the Bus in paper, and that started the fire. And from that day on, I said, you know what, I'm going to make Billy my icon for Lucy's Dream. So when you see Billy the Bus, you're going to incorporate to Leo Phoenix and Lucy's Dream, kind of like Dr. Seuss's Cat in the Hat. Mm-hmm. Very identifying, symbolic, character. Same thing with Billy. So going from those origins to where I'm at now, if I'm thinking I'm spinning my wheels, then, I feel for some of these other guys that are out there trying to still find a style.
Awesome. Solana?
Yes.
Oh, I thought maybe you had your next question.
Well, I was going to get into what is the comic part all about.
That's a whole amazing story.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is an amazing story because when you listen, sometimes you can pick something up. And Stan Lee, and this story goes back to Stan. Stan's always said, the hardest thing to create these days, at any time, but now that there's so many artists out there with so many different agendas and directions, is a superhero. Mm-hmm. He goes, all the powers have already been used. I think there's only like maybe 7 or 8 or 9 powers. I forget exactly what he said. But one day, this is about 2.5 years ago, I was in the living room, and my little boy, Maddox, was sitting there. And I said, Maddox, you know what Stan Lee said? He goes, what? I said, he says the hardest thing to create is a superhero. I said, why don't you go create one? Mind you, I didn't have sci-fi. I didn't have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have nothing. And he says, he leaves, and I guess it made it kind of clicked with him. He comes back a couple of days later. He goes, Dad, I got a superhero. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm thinking to myself, yeah. I didn't say this, but I said, yeah, whatever. He goes, yeah, man, how about a guy that can use his eyes and see from afar? I'm like, and I went back on the internet and started researching. Well, there were some. I said, man, but that's a pretty good idea. I said, a guy that can see from afar. So I went back, started sketching him out, started working on what this guy would look like. From Zoom Man, which he is Zoom Man now, he's part of the experiment operator unit called the EXO unit in SIFA, the Secret Center of Invention and Future Advancement, which will one day rival the SHIELD. Or they will go to battle one day, I can guarantee you that. From Zoom Man came Ratterman. From Ratterman came Flectoluminous, and Flectoluminous came Fominous, the EXO unit. From his idea of this guy that can see from afar, a very naive, very, kids have a very natural way of looking at things. And that was just amazing. And from that unit, as Cypher goes rogue and figures out that the EXO unit goes rogue from Cypher and figures out that they've been lied to, I create a whole nother squad called the Seismic Squad that's going to battle them because Cypher unleashes it on the EXO unit because they want them back. And inside the Seismic Squad, you have Tremulous, Echo, General X, which I know General X is out there to some degree, but this is a commander. I forget the names because they're so new. I haven't even developed them. Echo, Tremulous. I'm going to have to go back and bring those names back. But there's a whole nother crew that's going to go against these guys. Mm-hmm. And on the 5th issue of Sci-Fi, which I've already written, it's called the Clash of the Cosmos. You're going to have Sci-Fi facing off against the Seismic Squad. And but all this started with me just saying, hey, Maddox, create a new superhero. Or actually started with Stan saying, hey, the hardest part to create is a superhero these times. Because you go out there and you see many, many people trying to create a superhero. But to have something that's really, really, really original and really with substance, it's very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. And then have its own identity. I mean, in the Cypher story itself, it's pretty amazing. The way it's unfolding. So right now, I started with issue 3. It was called Cypher Unleashed, when the Cypher, the Secret Center of Invention and Future Advancement, releases Cypher to kill off some of the Reds. And then I did issue 4, is Cypher Rogue, when the EXO unit goes rogue. So now I'm going back to 1, 2, and 5. Cypher, the number 1 issue is going to be Cypher The Dawn, where Cypher actually goes up to, uses the Apollo 11 unit, the first mission to the moon, as cover to go to Mars to extract the Reds and the chemical that they're using to enhance all these guys. And then we'll have the issue 2 from Cypher, which is called New Era. And that's when they introduce the EXO unit. And then, of course, you go into Unleashed, Rogue, and then, which is the 5th one, is going to be the Clash of the Clash of the Cosmos, which that's where Seismic Squad and EXO unit head off. And then the 6th one, I'm going to introduce a brand new character, which is going to be, she's going. I said who it was. The character is going to be Harper Dean Dames, a.k.a. Bad Gun. That person's going to lead the Seismic Squad in future issues. And then on the 7th one, the battles between the Seismic Squad and the EXO unit will begin. But everything in those comic books are done just like the Lucy's Dream book and artwork. Everything's cut out of paper. So when you walk to the
Oh,
studio,
cool.
when you walk to the studio, you can actually see the pieces. You can hold each of the cells of the comic book, and I think you see the first 2 pages of the Dawn on my Facebook right now. And that's the Apollo 11 on the left hand side taken off, and on the right hand side, that's the dry lake where that's called WON, Cypher 1. That's taken off to Mars.
Okay.
And they're
Looking
gonna,
at that now.
Yeah, they're going to extract, and just to give everybody a little insight on this, you see the bed where he's taken off? Mm-hmm. That's actually a little known place that nobody really knew back in the late 60s, called Grooms Lake.
Okay.
And that's going to be that's the way they set up Area 51. But I don't name it. We address it in the comic book as Dry Lake.
Nice.
So
yeah, I had seen this earlier, and I was like, wow.
All that's paper.
Yeah. And once again, you look at it, and for me, I naturally think it looks like it's acrylic in some aspects, but
yeah, that's what caught my eye when we saw it. I was like, oh, this looks like some cool acrylic oil thing, and then you said it was paper. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
and
phenomenal.
it's so precise, and I dig that, because I have, like, when I was doing digital artwork, I like that clean vector look.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, and then you see the Apollo 11 taking off in Florida, the peninsula right there. I'm gonna actually. You gave me an idea with the splatter. I'm actually going to use acrylic to give some stars on it, to give it more depth and to give it bring it alive a little bit, because the black's a little too flat. But the second page looks pretty awesome.
Yes.
But that's the Dawn. That's where Cypher kicks in. Cypher is an organization that's Earth based, that was put there. And there again, we don't know who put him there, to protect the Earth from an intergalactic attack. So
this is like a cell, like maybe a panel for the comic. This particular one we're looking at.
No, that's
or is this different?
That's page 1 and page 2 of the comic. I haven't done the cover yet.
What I love about this is how you've got this. It's basically, this is one picture,
right?
And how both are 2 different pictures, and they kind of bleed over each of the
sky looks like it's continuing, but it's like the second stage, or maybe it's different stage.
I like that a lot. And Leo, we're getting close to the bottom of the hour.
Time flies, man.
It does,
fun
because it's you get to experience it firsthand how awesome this is, and so. We are going to get in a little bit later, because you brought up a few things about, like, Groom Lake, and we had a little bit of discussion beforehand, and then Solana
save it.
Solana was about to throw her computer at me, like, "Hey, save it for the program."
I know,
it's rough in the sense that it's very easy to get into these conversations, and then especially during breaks, and so we try to save it. So we've got some really cool stuff we want to talk about, because of our topics that we do cover here. But before we get to leave for the bottom of the hour, is there something you want to elaborate a little bit further on that we've talked so far about? Or
I mean, there's so much to say regarding the stuff that I've done, because it's or that I'm doing, because it's a very natural evolution. I did pose a question to Steranko, because he was the creator of the Shield. I said, I asked him, has the past influenced the future in your sense, or did the future imitate the past? And you know what he said?
What did he say?
That's a damn good question. He never thought of it. This is Jim Steranko, one of the guys that worked on the Shield, because that's always been my thought. I asked him, you guys were doing spaceships and lasers before spaceships and lasers really existed.
Right.
I said, so which one went first? The chicken or the egg kind of thing, because you're thinking, did the future just take from the past, or did the past actually influence the future? Especially with comics. Because did the military see that Steranko and those guys were creating the rocket ships and the lasers, and maybe this is a good way to go? Or which one happened first? And I've always asked that question, and And I was pretty proud of myself that I actually stumped him. He said, "You know what? That's a pretty good point."
That's kind of like with Star Trek. The original series. They had these discs that looked like floppy disks, or the hard disk. The small ones. You had flip phones that came along
Exactly.
later. But, was it because the show was so based in science fact that the young kids that watched the show grew up and said they wanted these things and came along and just invented? I'm sure that with comics, it was the same way, that the youth was inspired, or they grew up, became scientists, and said, "I want that."
And that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do with these. See, the artwork that I'm doing now with the comic books is, I'm a graphics guy. I can get behind the computer and start graphic wise do work on the deal. But I'm basing the artwork in the style of, maybe not straightforward, but the Sterenkos, the Kirbys, the Ditkas, the Joe Simons, the John Romita Jr., the John Romita Sr. guys.
You're paying tribute to those guys.
Yeah, because they I want to work with my hands, as opposed to, I'm not knocking these guys. All these guys are great artists at Pixar and all those guys, because those guys are the guys that are going to be working on my stuff one of these days. And they're going to make it look really, really good, knock on wood. I'm not trying to be big-headed, but, sometimes you just got to go back to the basics, and that's what's going to set you apart from everybody else.
Well, great. Well, here we are at the bottom of the hour. How are we doing over there, Solana? Everybody okay in the chat room?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you're listening to Spaceboy Universe, and I am Spaceboy, and our special guest tonight is Leo Phoenix.
Live in the studio.
Here.
In the studio.
Like
Flesh and blood.
real person.
Yeah, here in Houston, Texas. So in the SBU network studios. So
He hasn't run screaming yet.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
not
this
yet.
is fun. I'm not running.
So stay there and don't go anywhere. Welcome back. I hope you've got your beverage, you kicked it back in your old recliner, and you're listening to the SBU, and as you should be. I am Space Boy, and across from me is the lovely Serlana, and to my immediate right is Leo Phoenix. And we're talking it up tonight. Serlana, you were mentioning right before we got back from break that you had a question there.
Well, this is sort of like an artist's opinion question. So I don't know where I started in my journey. I just loved art. I think maybe when I got into college and you had to take that requisite art appreciation, and I was like, I just latched onto it. And I found periods and movements and genres I like, and I've learned all about things I never heard of before. And so I keep up with all that. And when I went to my first modern art museum, I was like, oh, I found the kind of things I like. But as studying art history, I've come across people like Jackson Pollock and Mark Rothko, and we have the Rothko Chapel here in Houston, which I've not been to. So what kind of bugs me is, like, are they revered and looked up to because they were the first people to do those types of things, or is there actual meaning in it that I'm not seeing?
But it's funny.
Splatters and just colors that go one color into another, and that's it.
It's funny you say that because if you don't mind me interjecting here.
No, that's why I'm asking.
Oh, you're asking?
I'm
Okay.
asking you.
Because I'd talk forever. I'm going to get into my radio voice. I'd talk forever, man. I had this conversation, and I'll throw a name out there. He's a good friend of mine, Jacob Coble. And we were sitting there, and we see a lot of, there's a lot of great artists in Houston everywhere. Sometimes lack of technique kind of drives you into the abstract. Not in every situation, but I think, it might take you in that direction a little bit. I try to pride myself that I just don't cut art. You can see some of my actually ink drawings and everything, and I pride myself that, they're very, very cool. But we had this conversation, and after Pollock and some of those abstract artists came out, they were the first of their kind.
Yeah.
So that put them on the radar as being the initiators of that style, and I believe to a certain extent that they deserve that. Mm-hmm. Now, Pollock had issues, so he had issues. So to pull it mildly, I don't know. I passed art history 400 level because I had to, because I failed it once, and they weren't going to pass me, and I was going to graduate. So art history wasn't my strongest point because I really didn't pay attention. But I paid enough to where I noticed that these guys were the origins. So I think in itself that kind of carries itself. I don't know if Pollock truly meant to splatter like that all over the place, or that's all he knew how to do. But he was the first one. So I believe that this is just me. I can be completely wrong, and I'm sure maybe your audience is a little bit more school than that out there. But I think that carries. I think that's most of it, if not it. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes that's just the way it is. I wish I would have been the originator of the splatter and become as famous as those guys.
And then you've got people like who do found art, like if that's Duchamp, and then where they just signed a urinal and like, this is art. And they were the first to do it. So now,
but I wish I had a little more knowledge of what I'm about to say, and maybe you guys can pick up on this. At some point in time, I don't know if it was within the last century, art took a turn.
Yes,
it took a turn to the eye of the beholder. To where
maybe it's postmodernism, basically.
It's the eye of the beholder. So that concluded that art could be anything, as
like Warhol's soup cans. And,
exactly, as opposed to true art. With the
got to go paint your scene or still life or
the lifestyle with the true content of what a body looks like, as opposed to
the scream with the
weird scream,
elongated faces.
Exactly. And me personally, I believe that's actually crippled the creativity and the ability to be a true artist. Because I'll give you a perfect example of my art when it comes to cutting paper. Okay, I have the Lucid Dream pieces, and this happened this happened by evolution of the way I cut paper. One day I looked down and there's all these pieces of paper laying on the floor from the original Lucy's Dream piece. And I said, man, that's an awesome looking shape. So I took the pieces from the original pieces and they became those abstract pieces. And it's a piece of a piece. So it's not that I wanted to become an abstract artist, but I have abstract pieces because that was the natural evolution of my work. So, you know, I think, but yet I can still come back and create a nice, real nice life drawing.
But that's cool. You had your first creation, and here's this byproduct you didn't expect, and now it became its own. Yeah.
Yes,
I love that.
Exactly. So it was a natural evolution of that, but yet I can go back and do a real nice life drawing face of Zeus, or one of Zeus's wolves, or one of the statuesque type lions from the Greek gods or the Greek period. And if you go on my Facebook, you can see that. But I think that philosophy, the eye of the beholder, has really, really hurt some artists, because instead of taking the long road, they take the short road. And, you know...
And you think...
That's
maybe
my
they don't
personal
have
view.
something to say with their art. They're not expressing something, trying to get something communicated through
exactly.
it.
I think that could be part of the problem, because what happens is, if you decide, well, you know what, I really, really love abstract art and I'm going to go in this direction, I'm really going to skip the life drawing. I'm really not going to try because I'm not super good. So I'm just going to go in this direction. This is cool. As opposed to, if you didn't have that philosophy, you can say, you know what, I'm gonna put another 2-3 years in this style.
Explore
instead of just going straight to the abstract. That's just me, because I'm not an abstract artist. I don't want to be one.
Is there a medium or method you'd like to do but you haven't explored yet?
I worked in all mediums. I mean, being in college, they kind of exposed you to everything. I've used oils. I hate oils. Oils are very hard to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, they're
Finicky.
They're messy. They take a long time to dry, and I'm just not good at them. I've used acrylics. I'm somewhat okay with acrylics, but I'm not a master.
See, I wonder if Bob Ross was high, because how could he be that chill working with that? You know,
some guys just have it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, some guys are just that good. A friend of mine, Jacob, I just mentioned. I work on his focus. He's amazing with the charcoals, not charcoals, pastels. I always say charcoals, pastels. But even my ink work looks like pastels and charcoals. And they ask me, is that a charcoal or a pastel? I said, no, it's ink. It's just that I use a variation of markers and fading techniques that are on there, and then they look really, really awesome.
Right.
But that's just my little input on that. I think that period of philosophies and way of seeing things kind of changed things for future artists. Instead of like your originals back when, you know, we're dealing with the Greek eras. Those guys were.
I'm forming a research paper in my head for some reason about the eye of the beholder changing things. But
I think it did.
But I also think it may have freed some people, because I have a Pinterest wall just for art I find on Pinterest that's really cool and out there. How, like, we have at Houston Fine Arts Museum, we have that James Turrell light tunnel. Art can also be light. How you just do light and shadow and things like that. I also kind of like how it's kind of exploded into anything.
No, absolutely. No, I agree.
Also not the subjective doesn't hurt it.
No. I agree with that, because I was telling you guys about my 4-minute stop motion movie that I did in 1980. One day I want to show that where it just loops in a museum somewhere where it loops. That's a piece of art. But I think that's a natural evolution of what I've done. I didn't start off thinking I'm going to do a 4-minute piece and then show it now. That's part of who I was. I think the concepts of the eye of the beholder, to some extent, I'm all about being open and exploring different techniques, because that's what creates the next generation of art. But I think I think it might not do it to everyone, but I think it handicaps some, because they don't go that extra mile. And there might have been, if you go that extra mile, you might have discovered something that you can actually be very, very effective, that sets you apart from everybody else, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm good with abstract. I can do these circles, whatever, and make them look really cool.
Would you say having an open mind is critical to creation?
You have to, and of course, I'm not going to name the artist that I got into it because they posted, he's a pretty big guy, and his 50,000 against my 300, maybe it was a 300, like the old guys down there, the movie 300, they would have crushed me, and they trolled me a little bit, but I had to put my peace of mind. I said, man, you got 50,000 followers, man. I said, you have some responsibilities on you. You can really influence a lot of people. And he threw the thing, well, you trying to censor me? I said, no, bro, I'm not trying to censor you. I'm just saying that you can say whatever you want, but beware that you might be affecting someone a certain way. My art has nothing to do with nothing. It's for everyone. Mm-hmm. It's from, people ask me, is it for kids? I said, no, it's from 0 to 100. I had grown-ups come up, get really emotional about some of the stuff. I believe that grown-ups see the details, the kids see the color. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I have a responsibility to reach out to everyone, because once you start getting, and I believe that his open-mindedness is actually closed-mindedness, because you start just dealing with one certain people and certain views, as opposed to if you kind of leave that out, then you can really touch a lot of other people, because you might not be turning that one person off, but that one person's father might tell you you're not following that guy. And there's a chain reaction. So we got in a deal, and I got trolled pretty hard there for a while. But you know what? I haven't seen him do another one of those things. I said, dude, you're an awesome artist. I'll tell you guys offline who it is.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, and you know who he is.
And the funny thing is, while you were telling the story there, the thing that was going through my mind was, with great power comes great responsibility.
I believe that, and I listen to that, mm-hmm. and that's Mr. Stan Lee, mm-hmm. and that's where that stemmed from. Mm-hmm. And people ask me, well, what's your belief on this? I said, it has nothing to do with this. If you want to talk politics somewhere else, or if you want to talk religion somewhere, we can talk offline. But when it comes to the artwork, to me, it's about the kids and influence the next generation of the Picassos or whoever's going to come after us. I want to fill out Dr. Seuss's little toe, if I can do that, mm-hmm. with the style that I'm bringing in. It's a surreal Dali-esque Dr. Seuss mixed in with the Marvel, mixed in with everything. That's what I want to do. I believe that it's strong enough to sustain itself now. I just need that stage and get that following. But I'm not going to alienate anyone, because I have a strong belief that mm-hmm. this guy should be here, that guy shouldn't be there. No, right. That has nothing to do with that. Art should be universal. You shouldn't start.
You don't dictate art. You
don't dictate it. And I understand that, there's going to be people out there that use art for certain things, which is fine, mm-hmm. But man, when you're of that stature and you start doing that, it's like, man, think about it. And he's an amazing artist, and I haven't seen anything like that again. So we'll see, man. They trolling me pretty hard, man. I'm like, oh, man, stop.
I hear more about this later.
Yeah. What did I get into?
Okay, one last kind of art question, and we'll take it. You'll take this wherever you want to after this. What is the local art scene like here in Houston, and where can we go to see, people who are not necessarily in the Fine Arts Museum, in the gallery? Or where do we go?
That's a great question. When I first got into the art scene, I didn't know very much. I didn't know. I'll tell you how I got my first studio, and this is kind of weird. One day, I said, I need a studio to see where I'm going to go. I'm going to pick art back up. So I went to this place. I looked up online, and this place, Aurora, in the Heights off Yale. Mm-hmm. And there was an old grocery store. It was converted into studios. So one day I go up there, and I'm knocking on the door. And a good friend, which she's an artist, she was there. She opens, Bridget. She comes up. I said, "Hey, can I look at the studio?" She goes, "No, the owner's not here, Hans." And at the same time, my brother calls me. He says, "Hey, man, I'm over here cutting my hair in the Heights, and there's this guy here that has studios, and he says that he has open studios." That was the same guy. I was at the same place. He had just met that guy a few minutes earlier.
Oh, really?
And it was the same guy. So I got the studio. I got to talk to him, and I went in, and I didn't like most of the studios. and the one that was coming open was the cooler where they kept the milk. It was all glass doors. So so it spoke to me. I said, "This is it." So I got the studio. But to go back to your question, the art scene here in Houston is pretty amazing. The silos where I'm at now, and I started from Aurora and moved to Silos. I grew it. But those guys have done an amazing job. I mean, you also have Ham, the Harrisburg people over there too, off Navigation, I believe. Never been there, but they're doing the scene here is growing. There's some amazing artists here in Houston. The Silos now houses the second largest group of artists behind LA. So to me, when I found that out, that's pretty amazing.
The Silos on Sawyer.
The Silos on Sawyer. You got Silos, Winter, Summer, and Winter Street, Summer, and Silver. But I think Silver is owned by somebody else, but they're in the same complex. I mean, these are major warehouses full of artists. 2 or 3 floors. And the silos are growing. I mean, I remember as a kid driving by those silos when I was a kid. That was a no-go place. It was pretty abandoned. It was a pretty rough place. I mean, it's right in the outskirts of downtown by Washington, before Washington was, the big showcase that is now.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's a big showcase. But you have a really good array of abundancy of art here. I mean, from you saying the Museum of Fine Arts down to you go every second Saturday to the silos and come in. You can literally walk into my studio and talk to me, or any of the other artists. But the art scene in Houston is really, really grown, and I think it's only going to get better. And one of my big deals is to bring notoriety to Houston. I always told people, art might lead me to L.A. or New York or somewhere else, but it's always going to be basing out of Houston, because this is where I started, and I want to put a little yellow star to Houston and say, Leo was from Houston, so he's up there doing movies now in L.A.
Well, it gets me excited because,
you need a space cowboy character.
you get East Coast, you get West Coast all the time. East Coast,
absolutely.
West Coast. And there's a lot of great stuff right smack dab here in Houston. And it's exciting to see artists such as yourself just shine. And, it just, people need to, hey, you've had hamburgers, you had pizza. Let's try something a little bit different here. And that's what I think Houston has to offer, is just a unique, fresh take that people have overlooked for some time. And it's really great stuff.
It's evolving. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time, just like the article. And we spoke about this earlier. If you go to Fresh Aesthetics, punch in Fresh Aesthetics, Leo Phoenix, and read that article that Fresh Aesthetics wrote on me, it's something that I would have written about myself, but you can't, because it's you. Not that I can't, but it's something that you can't come up with. But that's exactly right. I mean, my artwork fermented for 20-something years before I realized what I was looking at. Same thing with the art scene here. It's not something that happens overnight. We are in the Midwest, South. They see Texas. Oh, Texas, the Cowboys and Derricks. That's what the New York people think. And L.A. is all a bunch of Hoodats and whatever. Okay, whatever. But if you come down here, I mean, we got some pretty exciting stuff. I mean, when I went up to L.A. the first and second times, a couple directors and a couple galleries walked up and said, "Guy, man, nobody's working like you in L.A." And for those guys to say that, tell me that means a lot. L.A. done it, doing it, and they're continuing to do it. I mean, they're the mecca of, the creation, the world. Everybody wants to be in L.A. and create movies there. Chinese, Japanese, everybody goes there. Regardless of who you are, how much money you have, you end up in L.A. if you want to make a movie, because that's where the production is at. That's where the technology is at. So for those guys to tell me that, then, and for the response that I've gotten so far of the artwork, it tells me that I'm going in the right direction. It's one thing is not to stop, keep moving forward. You're going to have your drawbacks. You're going to second guess yourself. You're going to run off the tracks every once in a while. Something dictates, you run into a girl or something, and then everything goes kind of wacky there for a little bit. But then you hold your horses back and, hey, get back, cowboy. You can't get caught up with that mess right now. You're busy. But it is what it is. I think Houston's a great venue to house something like that in the future, and I really, really hope that I can be a conveyance to bring that to Houston one day in the big sense. I'm always a big proponent for me. I tell my friends, we all have different definitions of success. Mine's a household name, man. Everything comes with it after that. But that's my goal. Some people just wish to create. I want to influence, create, and become a household name. Mm-hmm. That's the idea.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, mine is all very similar to that path, but where I add to that is that it gives me an opportunity to meet people I've never met before.
Absolutely.
And to expand my knowledge, whether it be artistic or mind altering, and that's the path that I'm on, is the ultimate path of enlightenment, and to interact with people such as yourself just expands on that, and I enjoy that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always tell people, you don't know who. This is another example. You don't know who you're dealing with sometimes. Mm-hmm. I was sitting in my studio one day. I always leave my door open because you don't know who's going to walk in. And the guy comes in on a Sunday afternoon. Hey, man, can I come in, check out what you have in here? I said, sure. He was a guy, he had his own company. He was the guy affixing all the video cameras inside the silos. I'm not going to mention his name, but he walks in one day, and I don't know who he is. Mm-hmm. I just know he's working there. Do you know how much stuff that guy has bought from me? and this is not a person that you would think, hey, he owns 11 BMWs. He's a great guy. Mm-hmm. His wife is a great person. But you just don't know. You got to treat everybody the same.
Right.
You really, because I can be sitting in front of a Howard Stern, and one day you invite me back. I don't know. Vice versa. Maybe you don't like Howard Stern. I don't know. But,
I won't allow him to become that. So
it's
but not in that sense, but in the statuesque sense, popularity.
It's very important to us that we're genuine, because our audience out there will see right through you, mm-hmm. and they'll know if you're fake or not. And,
absolutely.
And we've had a couple of opportunities where some of our listeners, like for example, one particular person of our show, K28, who's a big mega fan of the show, was down here on a conference and got to eat dinner with us. And he says, y'all, it's like watching the show live with you. I mean, you are who you are. And mm-hmm. and my hopes of the future is that as the show continues to grow, that we remain true to that. That, we try to remind our audience that, what you hear is what you get. Mm-hmm. We're the same way off the air as we are on the air, and we want to continue to be genuine, because the moment you turn fake, then the
people
audience,
sense it.
They're going to sense it.
I don't know how to be anyone other than me,
and that's the magic of our show, is that I've said just be us.
Absolutely, I believe the same way, because like I said, my story is very natural. If I would have to fake my story, you would pick up on it, mm-hmm. because I'd be rehearsing it all night, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that. That's not the way it works. Mm-hmm. I'll give you another little funny story that happened to me that keeps me going. Mm-hmm. There's a Kentucky Fried Chicken close to the silos, and I go in there and grab a bite to eat every once. I love the original recipe. So I go in there and grab a bite every once in a while, and I had just dropped the first book, Lucy's Dream. And this is another aspect of what we do here, and the reality of the thing is I'm sitting there, and about 3 years at the first Comic Palooza that I did, there was a guy that worked in the trash guy with the big cans picking up the trash. Mm-hmm. I gave him one of my cards, and he goes, "Man, thanks." So he started following me. Mind you, Houston's a massive place. So I'm in there one day after I dropped the Lucy's Dream book back in January, I think. I'm in there, grabbing a quick bite to eat. I'm going back to the studio. And the cook from the back comes out. And he looks at me. I'm thinking, okay, what does this guy want? He goes, "Hey, man, are you Studio B?" I'm like, "Oh, my God." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Man, oh, my gosh, I can't believe you're here, blah, blah, blah." He goes, "I follow you." He goes, "Remember me? I was the guy at Comic Palooza 2 years ago that you gave me the card and all this." I said, "Dude," I actually do remember you. You had the big can, the whole 9 yards. He goes, "Yeah, that's me." He goes, "Oh, my gosh, I can't believe you're eating in here." I said, "I come here all the time." So ever since, I've struck up a friendship with the guy. He's a hard worker, man. He's in there working every day. And I always drop a new issue of one of my comic books out at him, and I was in there the other day, and I went and dropped him off one of the posters in the comic book. He goes, man, you can't believe how much what this means to me. I'm an artist too, but I'm always working, and I have to make ends meet or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you know, those are the things that keep you going, man. Right. And if you're not real, people are going to sense it. And you got to stay true. You're gonna get some status with a little bit of money here and there, and your looks are changed, but your attitude can't change. Right. One thing that you can never get back, and I always tell people this: when somebody's willing to give you 1 minute or 5 or 10 minutes of their time, you need to honor that. I said, those people, no matter how much money they have, they'll never be able to get back those 10 minutes of their life. And they're going to leave out with a positive attitude of you or a crappy attitude. Pick it. Right. Because I had many times people come into the studio and say, well, these guys over there were talking about not making any money, or they're playing on their phone, or they're not paying attention to the artist. I said, that's not what I'm all about. If I have the time, it's all about my story to you, because it's a full package. It's just not the art. It's the art with the artist. That's what people want to know. What are you all about? Are you for real, or are you fake? And that's just part of being original. Mm-hmm. I agree. Kind of like the recipe in KFC, the original. That's my favorite. Yeah,
original here too. Uh-huh. Oh, hey, look at there, Leo. We're at the top of the hour.
Man, we're moving.
Do we want to open it up for calls at this hour? Where I figure when we come back, it's a free-for-all. He talks whatever he wants to talk about.
Sure. And, I'd love to talk a little bit about the stuff before the show. And
sure.
Mm-hmm. But, if you're willing to take a few phone calls.
Yes, absolutely. I'm excited.
Awesome.
I'll connect it during the break.
Okay, so everybody, you are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network. I am Spaceboy. Across from me is the lovely Solana, and our awesome guest for tonight is Leo Phoenix, our first guest in the SBU in studios. And so I'm all excited about that.
It only took 2 years.
It only took 2 years.
To get somebody in here.
So anyway, hold the dial, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
So, Solana, do you know the number to people wanted to
Nope.
call into the thing?
Well, yeah, I got one already.
Is it wait, you got a...
Yes, I've got a number already.
All right, caller, you're on the air.
Well, hello.
Hello, Bev. How are you, my dear?
You got the wrong one.
Hot.
Hot? Wait, did I say... this is Bev, right?
You betcha.
Okay.
You sound good.
I was worried that it was going to be Fran, and I was like going to have egg yolk on my... When you said hot, I was like, well, it's been hot in Tucson.
Oh, it's been hot and humid in Ohio.
Oh.
Wow. Made it all the way up there.
Well, hey, you know, we got guests in studio. Do you have questions? Do you want to talk to our guest?
Yeah, I'd like to talk to him.
Well, go right ahead.
Good, Bev.
How you doing?
Hi, Leo.
Doing
I'm
great.
fine. How are you?
Doing awesome. You know,
Good.
It's been a great evening. Time flies with these guys.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yes. What's on your mind?
Well, I couldn't get over when y'all mentioned Bob Ross. He's an icon in the art world.
Absolutely, Bob Ross is awesome.
See, my husband paints too, and he does Bob Ross style painting, and oh man, he is so good. I mean, it looks just like Bob Ross's paintings. I just don't know how else to explain it, but oh man,
We're seeing it on the Twitter feed here on the TV.
Yeah, it looks really
Are
cool.
you-
Love the lighting.
I know, isn't it awesome? And he knows just where to shade and everything.
No, absolutely. I mean,
His mom paints.
So there's
His mom paints.
there's a
too.
lineage there.
Yeah. So he gets it from his mother.
That's very cool. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
She watches Bob Ross too.
He's gotten a
loves
revival all of a
Bob
sudden, Bob Ross, even though he's been long gone.
Wow.
They
Yeah.
stream him on Twitch.
Wow.
On Twitch. See, it's a PBS here, Public Broadcasting Service, and
Yeah, that's where he and Bob Alexander, the angry German, with his almighty fan
Yeah.
brush.
The angry German.
yeah, that's who. Bob. That's Alex
Alexander.
taught Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Alexander taught Bob Ross.
Yeah,
and everybody thought that Bob Ross was one that invented it, but no, it was Bill Alexander.
Wow.
You must hear comedian Patton Oswalt talk about Bob Alexander. It is hysterical.
Bill
Yeah.
Alexander.
Well, it's either Bob or
He said
Bill
Bob.
Alexander. Yeah, it's the German guy that came on before or behind Bob
Yeah.
Ross. So, yeah.
He was before Bob.
Are you enjoying us having an in-studio guest for the first time, Bev?
Yes, it's awesome.
Thank you very much.
So
I'm
do you
loving
like
it.
your new studio?
What was that,
Do you
Bev?
like the new studio?
Oh,
Do you like the new studio?
Do you like the new studio?
Yeah, it's same old house, same old roof, but it's totally redone. I mean,
I'll give you my take, Bev. I think it's amazing. It really gives me as an artist a sense of being in the studio, and it gives me a sense of who they are. You know, if I had a drink in front of me, man, I'd be spacing out right now. Literally, I like it.
we've got some Bob half a tequila in the back room.
You know, a shot of scotch, Blue Label or something would have gone great next time.
Nice.
Okay, next time.
We'll put something on ice for you.
We're not teetotalers. It's just we don't have time to drink. We've got too much to do.
Like
I completely understand.
It's like, do I do my art in the broadcasting, or do I kind of kick back and have a drink?
And
or whatever?
I have a headache so often because of allergies. I can't drink because I already have a headache.
I know the feeling.
You know, just something really light, like a little shot of Blue Label kind of keeps me in line a little bit. But
Well, we're going to keep that in mind for you,
all
sir.
right, man. That sounds great.
Well, Bev, as always, we love it when
I
you
know
call
what
the
you're
universe.
talking about there. Oh,
The blue label.
Yeah.
I'm telling Shalana, I know what you're talking about with allergies, hon.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Ours have been off
I'm
the
allergic
charts.
to almost everything outside.
Yeah, I'm allergic to
Even
air.
grass.
I should be living on the moon
That would be fun.
because I don't think
maybe
I'm allergic
both of
to
us
it.
should go live on the moon.
I think we're already there,
Go live
Bev.
on the moon. Yeah.
We
On the dark side.
we could get into why
There you
why
go.
have we never gone back to the moon as America? I mean, because what's there that doesn't want us there?
Because
So-
we're already there. That's why.
Ooh,
Bless
bless
you.
you.
Well,
There's the allergies.
Yeah.
Well, Bev, we appreciate you calling the universe tonight.
well, I always call.
Yes, it's always a treat when you do.
I have to tell you that I love you guys.
Oh, shucks. We love you too, Bev.
Thank you, Bev.
Thank you, Bev.
Give Bob a
and
big
Leo,
old...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, give Bob a big old bear hug for us.
Even though he doesn't deserve it.
Oh! Well, most of the time he don't, but I hug him anyway.
Good, good. That's more hugs than I get from Solana.
Tell him to keep doing what he's doing. I love the art, the Bob Ross style art. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, Bev.
And Leo, you keep up the good work.
Hey, thank you very much. And follow me on Facebook, and I'll follow you right back.
Okay.
Thanks, Bev. Have a good night.
Cool.
Thank you, Bev.
Thank you. Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you too.
Hugs.
Hugs.
Kisses.
Hugs, not drugs. Unless you really need them.
That's what Ian Asbury says. Hugs, not drugs.
Unless you just, they're prescribed and you got to have them.
Well, we brought up moon landing stuff, but when before the show started, Leo,
We had a good conversation.
we had a good conversation, and
I was like, stop.
we were talking about Pluto and how great the pictures have been, but you want to elaborate a little bit beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, we had the conversation. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything
We
like
are.
that. No.
We are.
I've asked my questions to NASA, and they've kind of looked the other way. But anyway, I mean, come on. We can get these HD images straight from Pluto, which is basically on the fringes of the universe there from where we stand. Mm-hmm. But yet we can't get clear images from Ceres and the lights.
Right.
Tell me what's wrong with that picture. I mean, from an artist's point of view, I'm just saying, not even artists, just a simple math. To me, it doesn't add up. What do you guys think?
Well, we've.
I don't know. I'm a liberal arts major. I'm an English major. I didn't do nothing with math, so I'm not the person to ask.
Well,
about
I was
math.
gonna bring up, Solana, is that we've read and seen many videos about the doctoring of NASA photos, and
Oh, yes.
it's
Gary
amazing.
McKinnon.
Yes, many things that you point out validly. That I mean, I have on my phone. Like, okay, I'm going to show. This is kind of like in motion here. Here's a picture of Jupiter. I mean, it looks phenomenal, doesn't it?
Does that look like a futuristic Earth of some type?
It looks it's really cool. And then I've seen the pictures of Pluto, of what you're talking about, and the pictures are crisp. But then you
High
have
res.
and then you have pictures on Mars
They're pretty good.
that are somewhat good. There's some that are good, and then there's some that are like, what is going on here? There should be better pictures than these that we're getting.
What they're saying is some of those resolution pictures that you're getting from Ceres are from Apollo-style cameras. Well, what we're using Apollo-style camera technology to take pictures in Ceres, but I mean, I don't get it. You would think that we're using the same satellites, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, then you got that thing, the X-37, that disappears
We
for
talked
200
about
something
that.
days,
Yeah.
and
Where's it going?
my philosophy is they keep on saying, well, the reason the amateur astronomers from Earth can't see it is because it's moving. It's moving. What was it? The orbits.
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the DOD is the one that's handling that, right? Department of Defense.
Right.
So where is it going? I think it's going to Mars. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if it's disappearing for long periods of time like that,
200 something days. I mean, now they're saying that you can actually get to Mars and back in 6 months.
Right.
That's what they're saying now. Before it used to be years.
Right.
Now they're knocked it down to 6 months. So it kind of makes
Or
sense.
if you believe Andrew Bashago, they have a teleporting elevator in New Mexico that'll get you there like that. And apparently Barry Soetoro went with him, which is Barack Obama.
Another interesting story altogether. But
Yeah.
but it just amazes me that some of the high res pictures that we get, and it just,
What's all with the pixelation?
yes,
Why?
yeah.
The pixelation from the moon?
Right, and there's pictures of the moon that's so close. Just look up, and
Yeah.
and they've got that pixelated.
There's consumer cameras that you can just go stand outside and it will zoom just the most amazing clear picture of the moon.
Just the other day, I was watching this video of this guy, Space Boy, interviewing Leo on YouTube, and the quality was absolutely wonderful. And but I mean, yet NASA has pictures that are just indecipherable. And we've read, Solano, wouldn't you agree that there are that we've heard people that are actually paid to paint perfections or imperfections out of the thing. I
or
would
smudges
say,
and
leave it as it is. Give it to us, and let us make it.
It's like we were talking earlier about, like, where are they getting the details from movies like Interstellar? They're getting so in depth. I mean, I love the imagery. I love everything about it. And I'm thinking about, well, I mean, I can understand there's creative imagination on a lot of it, but some of this is just, I think it's getting a little too specific to where you got to stop hiding somewhat the truth here, because I think everything I think we're 40, 50 years ahead of what we're doing. So it's just me. I don't know. I mean,
and I think that I responded to you in saying that it's very plausible that maybe that they're trying to prep us to be accustomed to it. It's because I think that weren't you saying that the kids in the future will say, "Oh yeah, I've already seen that. It's like nothing to me."
Right. I mean, it's kind of like the conversation with the comic books. That is the future imitating the past, or the past imitating influencing the future? Which one is it? And then a lot of this stuff, like you said, it might not be for us, like these movies, Interstellar, but it might be towards more my 10-year-old. Well, when he gets to be 20 and starts to realize the real world, well, psychologically, I've already seen that, so it's not a huge effect. I'll be 80 or 90 or maybe not even be here anymore.
Right.
So, we're kind of on the fringes of this right now, but what's coming next? I mean, you're already talking about within the next few years we'll find some type of life somewhere. I mean, this is coming from NASA. This is not coming from us, from me. So it just, a lot of things that make you go, that just don't add up.
the only thing I'm getting out of movies with aliens is that they're born angry and they must procreate at any cost.
And destroy everything in their way. So I don't know. It's a lot of this stuff just doesn't make a lot of sense. And just, I mean, in very simple terms, is the resolution that you get from Pluto as opposed to the resolution you get from even the moon or even Ceres or even Mars. I mean, who cleaned those solar panels? Was it the gust of wind? Or was it the guy with the squeegee up next to him that the X-37 just dropped off a month earlier?
Even with the, because Mars has dust storms, but, not to the effect of cleaning the solar panels.
Right, I've taken a blower to the truck, and let me tell you, it's still dirty.
Right.
So I don't know. It must be a pretty clean dust storm.
Some Martian squeegee the thing there.
You know who it is? It's one of my reds that we brought back from the comic book.
Nice.
It's one of my reds and one of my grays. So if you read the comic book, you'll know who the reds and the grays are.
So that leads me to a question to you, Leo, and answer it, honestly, in the sense of, do you believe in life in space? And I mean, that's a broad question. What is your perception?
I mean, I've always seen things like this. This is my point of view. When I have a problem, is I pull myself away and look at myself from maybe the other side of the universe. How big's my problem? It's not very big. I can overcome it. So if we were to leave tomorrow, if this Earth was to go boom, there wouldn't be a ripple in the space. Nobody would hear a scream. We're that vast.
Right.
So you tell me from the advances we made in with optics to see abroad in space, how many universes, how many systems are out there? So with all that said, how could we be alone?
Right.
I mean, I don't believe we're alone. I mean, it can be all sorts of things. But if like we were talking earlier, if they can tell us that there's an exoplanet out there that's probably the same distance away from their sun, like our Earth, and it rotates on the same deal, how can something not evolve? I mean, there's sharks swimming next to volcanic rock.
Right.
There's sharks swimming in areas where one of our submarines couldn't make it to, 6 miles in the deep, in the darkness.
As at Jurassic Park, life finds a way.
Yeah. I mean, you tell me that bacteria exists on the space shuttle in space.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't take a surgeon to figure out, hey, look.
Well, there
might be something there.
Did you see Robert Bigelow on 60 Minutes? And I've said this before, when I first moved here from my hometown in Louisiana, and I just had started dating him. It was 2004.
God. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I'm
playing the radio host now.
We lived in Webster, and that's just, pretty close to NASA, the Johnson Space Center.
Yes, I know exactly where Webster.
And so I was just looking for a job, any job. I was doing some temp jobs. One of the temp jobs was cleaning the restrooms and what other janitorial stuff at one of Bigelow's space installations down there. So this is the guy who's building spacecrafts and things for private. And so he was on 60 Minutes, and the interviewer, do you believe in aliens? And Bigelow says, I'm convinced. That's all there is to it. And so do you think they've come to Earth? And Bigelow says, there has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence, and I spent millions and millions and millions, and probably spent more as an individual than anybody else in the U.S. has ever spent on this subject. And the interviewer says, isn't it risky for you to say this in public, that you believe in UFOs and aliens? And he says, quote, Bigelow said, I don't give a damn. I don't care. I don't care. It's not going to make a difference. If you think I'm crazy, it's not going to change the reality of what I know.
That's a pretty straightforward answer.
And he's a multi-millionaire, billionaire, and he's the one who put together a team.
This was just recent, right? The 60 Minutes? Yes. I recall the article. I didn't read it.
He's kind of famous for putting together a research team to go to the Skinwalker Ranch to investigate UFO, paranormal, supposed alien activity.
Very interesting case.
Well, let's get deeper. What about the guy that was supposed to reveal some stuff? I don't know. He was in Switzerland?
Oh.
Or something like that about maybe 6 months ago, and he was up there to reveal some pretty influential people in regards to that, and then he ended up mysteriously dying, oozing some black stuff out of his mouth.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
People in chat, do you know who he's talking about? Tell us who that is.
That was a huge story.
Yes, I do recall hearing that story.
I thought he was going to say Tom DeLonge, and I was going to go, ugh.
No, but, it's not too far off from that, Leo, that very, recently in the past several years that you've had major scientists mysteriously dying or being killed off. There's been a lot of articles based upon that, but I do recall hearing the one about, the, black ooze coming out. Yeah, and I think that's what caught me.
Dennis probably knows.
Yeah.
He'd actually, I think, spoken to his mom and told him, text his mom and said, hey, look.
We've got a call.
Oh,
probably somebody has some answers.
Caller, you're on the air.
You there, caller?
Don't be so surprised to have a call. Don't be so desperate. People like you.
Hello, Dino. How are you, my friend?
Oh, pretty good. It's real strange here, sitting in the dark with every house door, window open. It's so hot here. So I'll just talk to the world, I guess.
It's hot in California?
Well, my area doesn't get as hot as Southern Cal, but anyway, the topic you're talking about now is quite interesting, and I'm not the first one to say this, but whether it's the Bigelow interview last weekend or on a different program here, the Art Bell's old program, their last couple of nights, a document supposedly was released secretly, and they've been analyzing it, and they've had Linda Moulton Howe on and Whitley Strieber and even Stanton Friedman checking these documents. It's about 24 pages, and it talks about Roswell crash, and it supposedly talks about Majestic 12 and names some of the dead members, and talks about an Aztec crash, which is only rumored, but it gives details and even has excerpts from supposedly a humanoid person who survived on that craft who could speak English. It seemed kind of far-fetched at first, but when you put all these things together, and Stephen Bassett is cautiously looking into this, and he has been doing disclosure around the world since the election. He kind of went international now with Paradigm Research Group. So what it has me thinking is Tom DeLonge, the former rock member of, what's his, Blink 82, is that
Blink
his band?
182.
His rock
Yeah.
band?
Blink 182.
Yeah, that he's been, not threatening, but been hinting for the last year that he was going to make a big announcement or had some big stuff, and then we found Hillary's manager there, his emails, that he had been talking to DeLonge, and that they had indeed been talking to some military people. So it makes me wonder whether this is all, at least for right now, coming to a head. It seems like every few years there's a big either a conspiracy or some kind of release of information about otherworldly, or as John D'Souza says, other dimensional visitors. So I think that's really significant that Bigelow just, with a straight face on a national TV show that middle America watches, not just the freaks, to make those statements. I mean, that's a big thing.
Mm-hmm, it is.
But, coming from Robert Bigelow, I'm not surprised. The man has been a cowboy of sorts when it comes to the subject matter.
If you've got enough money, you don't have to care about anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I got money. What do you, just whatever.
What are you going to do?
what about, what
yeah,
what
they call it FU money.
Yeah.
They call it FU money. Yeah. I got FU money, don't bother me. Howard Stern mentions that all the time. So it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder whether this is really the truth, or that the fact that shows like yours, even though it's not the only topic you deal with, many shows with the internet now, on television, Ancient Aliens, have been out for a few years, and more of the public, whether you ask someone individually or not, if they're not in public, whether they believe in this stuff, maybe there needs to be, that's one of the possibilities, some more disinformation put out. But if Bigelow is the cowboy you say he is, yeah, he's made statements, but this was on, 60 Minutes? I mean, that's pretty huge for anybody. Edgar Mitchell, when he was alive, and 2 or 3 other astronauts made statements, but you only seem to find them on obscure programs that they were interviewed on. When they start going to a mainstream, one of the 5 mainstream, one of the 5 owned media outlets, and making statements like that and not getting laughed at, I wonder what it all means.
Well, what do you think it means, Leo?
It's a setup. They're setting us up for the big release.
Would you agree with that, Dino?
Well, I mean, I wonder. I'm one of the people who, the last few years, that all these internet radio programs have started listening to them and reading books of some of the guests and making sure that I'm well informed, and yet I don't know that I've ever seen a person not from this planet. I did live in the country, did live in the city. Now I live just outside the city, and from my hilltop I see many lights, but they always seem to be identified. So as someone who, I don't even know if I'm a skeptic. I'm not a debunker, because a debunker says, screw it, I'm not looking at any of the information, and I don't believe anything you tell me, you're all nuts. I've never been that way. And as a friend of mine said, well, you want this to all be true. Well, I don't know if I'm like that. Yeah, it would be nice if it was true, and I don't know if I'd be happy, but I would feel vindicated, from people who still think I'm a little weird for talking about this stuff. But, I want it to be right. I want it to be truth. I don't want it to just be, something that's fake. And I don't know if they are setting us up for the big one slowly. Some people have said a government would never tell us unless they're tricked into
setting
it.
us up for the next big
fine.
lie, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't like making these statements. I mean, I mentioned in the chat room the Malibu deep underwater base. Now, about 2 years ago, that was a big thing, and everybody was, and we kept hearing, just wait. And then, about a year ago, I was told by someone, no, just keep quiet, but we're going to bring crews and we're going to do something about it. And then there was an announcement made about that on another program. Oh, yeah, we're going to be on TV, and then we hear nothing. Mm-hmm. So that makes me think someone was told to shut up. Maybe it's just a military base, like they said, but for secret submarines. But, if it is something that's otherworldly, why haven't we seen something about it? And I just get tired of people, and I won't mention names, but there are CG and others that, make these announcements and have many followers. I don't see any evidence. I mean, it would be nice, but...
I think I'm like you, Dino, in the sense that... it's like when we were talking earlier, and Leo and I were, saying that, something like Interstellar comes out and it kind of, brings something to the table and it kind of like desensitizes. And over time, it's like, when something does pop up, it's like, okay, all right,
there it is.
There it is. What we've been kind of shown the way.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, been there, done that. Bring something new to the table. I guess I'm at a point. I mean, you know me for some time now, Leo. I mean, and hopefully you'll know me for some time. But Dino,
Leo,
Dino, you've known me for some time now, and over time, I think I've become more skeptic on the issue of the UFO phenomenon, and it's just I've reached a point where it's like, great, I've heard this, I've heard that from the different people that are out there in the community, and I think I'm ready for them to like drop the ship down, come on out, and let's party. And who am I? I'm from this Zeta Reticuli, and let's get it on, kind of thing. But I'm just ready to move on from it. I mean, I love the subject matter, but it's just I guess I get tired of how many times can we see Dr. Greer go in front of the Congress and say this, or how many rock stars do we need to have come out and say, yeah, I've been having secret emails to the government about UFOs. And I mean,
he makes me roll my eyes DeLong.
But at the end of the day, it's like how many times do we have to be promised that we're going to go investigate an underground water base and we'll disclose this for the whole world to see? It becomes weary over time.
But it makes for good stories.
It does, and we circle back to Robert Bigelow in the sense of the Skinwalker Ranch. His team out there went to investigate the Skinwalker Ranch and found all these different phenomenon, UFO related, Bigfoot related, paranormal related at one
Another
spot.
Really good story.
Another really good story that we highly recommend.
Supposedly true.
But at the end of the day, I guess it gets, as time goes on, it gets harder and harder to listen to it 24/7. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Let's get tired.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, what added on, I agree with everything you're saying, and I get the same feelings. In addition to that, we get every point on the compass of different people telling us, oh, they're good people coming here and they're going to help us, but they're just waiting for us. Then we have someone else telling me, oh, no, you're crazy. They're here for ill, and if we let them in, they're going to take over the world. And then we have others say, well, if they wanted to do that, they could. They have the technology to get here. They could do it. And then we hear Dr. David Jacobs writing a very interesting, convincing book that they don't need to do that because they're already genetically modifying us and putting hybrids around. And it gets to the point where if there is some truth to any of this, if there is, they're going to confuse it so much. And who are they? People who do not want it known. And then you go into, well, who are those people? Are they industrialists? Are they just people who really care about the world? Oh, we don't want our citizens to freak out. Are they religious people who don't want their beliefs challenged? And we have every point of the compass, and it gets to the point where it's like when I used to be a Catholic boy, you know. You can only base it on faith because you haven't seen anything. So if your faith is that all aliens are good and they're going to come and save us and help us and give us this new energy system, you're going to tend to believe people that tout that story. Mm-hmm. If on the other hand, you think, well, all I've ever heard is about people getting abducted and you know, we're trying to shoot them down and they've shot our fighter jets down, and you know, the X-Files came on, you know, 15 years ago and told us you could get a black disease from them, and then we see all these viruses. It really, I don't blame people for getting confused, but at some level, you know, it's your faith. If your faith is that you've seen something in your life and you know what you saw, or think you know what you saw, and you've checked out any possibility that could be anything else, then you've got to hold on to that fact. But that can be difficult for people who have said that they have been, you know, in the middle of the night had strange beings come in and take them away, or try to wipe their memory, or put an implant in their body. You know, if you research this stuff, you wonder, maybe some of it's true. And then they want to know an answer, and I don't blame people. I'd be frightened. I'm alone and dark in my house, and I can't tell anybody about it. It is confusing, but I guess I put out my advice to people is keep on keeping on. I mean, I've been through 2 weeks right now about something else I won't get into, but we've been fighting government agencies, and just to see how people dig in their heels, no matter what side they're on, and they cannot negotiate.
Well, Dino, I appreciate the dialogue because you are phenomenal when it comes to the subject matter. But we have a guest tonight, and I'd be remiss if there was something you wanted to talk to our guest. Well, that's why I wanted to bring him into it, because Leo sounds like you're not a debunker. You're someone who wants truth, also, correct?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had this conversation, and we're all going to make an assessment based on our knowledge and what we research. The best thing to do is obtain the facts the best we can, and then make an assessment from there. Everybody's going to have their own way of thinking and doing. That's the way I see it. I mean, just like we were talking about the pixelation from the different images that you get from. Know a little bit about graphics. My background is in graphics. I mean, the images you get from a shot at Pluto to the images you get from a shot of Ceres, which Ceres is basically right next door to you, as opposed to being across, your domain here. I mean, you start kind of putting the pieces together, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So, the best thing to do is to assess the situation and arrive at your conclusion, and then one day you're either going to be right or you're going to be wrong. One day we're going to be able to know what's really out there, or we're going to pass away, with that thought. So it's just, it's a very hard question to ask. A lot of people have different points of views and on this issue. It's a very complicated and drawn out issue.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else can be said, except every time, whether it's Bigelow or a new document comes out, I still want to take a lot of time
exactly
to look at it and to listen to what people have to say.
And that's a smart thing, and I think that's what everybody should do. Take a step back, grain of salt, assess the situation. Just don't take the first. It's like you say, you don't go out there and buy the first car, right? You kind of shop it around a little bit and see what you get. So basically that's the way I see it.
I totally agree with you, because the moment we close our minds off to one point of view, you're only dooming yourself to a dead end.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you in the sense that we have to keep our minds open to different possibilities, and it goes beyond just the subject matter we're talking about tonight. it goes to everything, because
Yes.
once you start closing your mind off to certain things, you're going to miss something that could have brought you to enlightenment that much quicker.
Absolutely.
And you know, like I said earlier, this is something that's really important to me, is enlightenment. I just try to keep an open mind. So I agree with both of y'all that to keep that open mind when something new comes out, and weigh it with a grain of salt, but at the same time take it in so that you can expand your knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dina?
Well, I would add faith to this. One more thing. I will volunteer tonight that some of you know that I've been fighting for 3 or 4 years to get a refinance on my house. Well, guess what? I finally got it, and the way I did it, it wasn't easy, because just like these things, and just like when the government of your city or the government of your state or your president does something you don't care for, you can't just get mad. You have to do something, and you do something through proper channels.
Exactly.
Well, sometimes you got to go over that. So what I did recently, because I'm a peace-loving person, I really don't like to shake it up. I mean, I like to have fun and do comic stuff, but other than that, I like a peaceful life. I don't like to be hassled by people or bullied. So what I did is I stood up, and a friend, not a business friend, not even a personal friend, said if it were me, I'd call the head of the bank. Now, I figured, I don't, and you have all these negatives in your head. That's what people do with these things. They go, oh, I'm too small. Well, guess what I did? I looked up. They didn't give the name. I looked on the web. I did some research, happened to take a best guess, called a number. Who's your CEO? Got the name. And guess what? Got to talk to this person. Guess what? Instead of getting angry and mad and all, I calmly explained why I feel that I had been mistreated by their bank. And guess what? They said, I'll get back to you in 2 days, and did. And guess what? It went down the chain of command, and now they're going to give me my refi. And I've been refused for 3 years.
Well, Dino, hold on.
But if I had not...
I was going to just add something real quick.
Go ahead.
I know you probably can't hear it, but on the live broadcast, we are clapping for Dino.
Oh, I thought that was a dog bone.
Anyway.
That's my point. I don't want to go on much longer, but the point is there's a couple of things that have happened recently also besides that. But I would not be sitting here telling you that. I would not be having, I guess what it is, it's my family motto on my father's side. And it's a motto that's in Gaelic. But it says, you know what it says? It says, sweeter after difficulties. And I always remember that now, that you don't always get what you want the first time. Maybe not the second time, but if it's something you really need, you'll get it if you do it properly the third or fourth time. And that's what people have to remember about whether they're looking for truth or whether they're looking for change in their life. If you need it and it's not a selfish thing, just push for it. Your intention will sometimes get you there.
Well, I think that
you never quit.
Yeah, don't quit.
Persistence never quit. Stay focused.
The wisdom of Leo, and it's so true.
That's my motto.
Yeah,
don't quit.
Don't quit.
And a lot of other people have been very successful. Basically, follow the same motto. So that's a good staple.
Okay, well, that's all I had to say for tonight. You guys can carry on.
That's it, Dino? You're only giving us
I
five
could go
hours?
on, but I'm not going to hog the airways. Jean Vitteau might want to call in.
Well, Dino,
Good night, everybody.
we love you here at the Universe, and try to stay cool out there in California.
All right. Good night.
Take care.
Bye, Dino.
Bye, Dino. All right. How are we doing over there, Solana?
Fine.
So,
fine.
I bet you didn't expect a curveball like this tonight. I mean,
no, man, but you know what? I mean, he makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm the first one to tell you. I mean, you have to absorb all the facts and look at everything. And this is just not about UFOs. This is about everything.
Right.
I mean, life decisions in business and art and whatever you're going to do, you really have to research and see what's out there and then make your own decision because you're making your own bed. Mm-hmm. I like to drive my own plane. I'm either going to fly off in the sunset and be well or go straight down. And if I do, I'll try and get back up and move forward. But it's my doing. Right. It's your decision. And And I think what Dino was saying is reverberates throughout a lot of people. It's look at everything and make an assessment based on what's going on. I mean, kind of like the images, I don't know, man. Why are you using, first generation stuff when we got 10th generation monitors up there,
right?
Or DoD satellites flying around.
I mean, the technology way surpasses Apollo 11.
Exactly.
I think at one point back in, I guess, the turn of the millennia, they were saying there was more technology in cars.
I'm told this surpasses Apollo 11.
There's more tech
I'm holding
here.
it in my hand.
No, you're absolutely right. At one point, it was the computer, the ones on your deal, but this has more tech than the whole Apollo mission thing down there. But no, I think it's an interesting conversation. I think that conversation goes in with art. It goes in with everything because, you can go back into my art. We just had the conversation about how Groom's Lake is kind of seeped into the comics. Dry Lake. And I can tell you further. My Lucy's Dream piece. There's in the first book, Lucy's Dream, where all the weird stuff happens in the water. It's called it's a word. It's words in play. It's called Broom's Lake. And there's a bunch of brooms sticking out. That's where Thomas the Talking Fish comes out. That's where the submarine's at. That's where Phoenix the Flying Dolphin comes out. I did that on purpose.
It's very Seussian in a way.
Because it was, instead of being actual brooms, I named it after Groom's Lake, Area 51.
Right.
So there's a bunch of brooms sticking out of there, and that's where all the weird stuff happens. So that stuff seeps back into the stuff that we do as an art because it affects you because that's our world. That's what we live in. Is it true? I don't know. You just have to kind of go with it. Don't lose your mind over it.
Right.
Don't go overboard and start, sticking full on your ears and expect to receive a message.
I just had the scene from Signs when they're in the closet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the way I see it. It affects everyone a different way, and some people go overboard, some people don't. I think if you kind of stay in the middle of the road and accept what's going on and see it and make your own assessment and read and educate yourself. I think the worst thing you can do is not educate yourself at any level.
Yes,
because then you become somebody else's tool. Be your own tool. For whatever for whatever that makes sense.
I'll come in here and tell you, be your own tool.
Yeah, be your own damn tool, man. Don't let somebody else use you.
Well, that is so true in the sense that you've got to take it in, but don't go crazy over it.
Yeah, don't go overboard, man.
Yeah, but I find it important that there are subject matters that people tend to snicker about.
Absolutely.
And I think that's because they're just unwilling or they're just been taught that maybe this is wrong to look at this or
like these subject matters. They've been overplayed in the media everywhere. Disinformation from both sides. From the actual people that know about it to the actual people that don't know about it. Some people that don't know about it start making up crap.
Right.
So you become your own disinformation. So you just feed into the system. So the thing is take a step back, look at the actual, look at what's really out there. Like just simple things like we were talking about, the pixelation, the type of cameras being used. When it doesn't add up, it doesn't add up. Does that mean anything? No, it just means that we can see all the way to Pluto. Why aren't we seeing at Ceres?
Right.
Why aren't we actually seeing on the moon? And you can arrive at your own conclusion.
And that's what we do on this show. We'll take a subject and we'll say, well, we don't really know what this is, or we think it's this. What do you think? Come to your own conclusions. Tell us what you think. We don't try to think for people.
Exactly. You look at the facts as best you can.
Unless I'm upset about something, then I will tell you.
And then don't go overboard. Be smart about it.
Right. Just
like anything. Good, a lot of a good thing's not good for you sometimes. So.
Well, Leo, before we run out of time, I like this last few minutes to.
It's already midnight. Oh my gosh, this time has flown by.
Yeah,
man.
well, I want to make sure that people know about how to get in touch with you, how to find links, and all that good stuff. So if you could kind of just take your time. We've got about another 9 minutes here. Enlighten our audience on Leo Phoenix.
Well, I mean, I'm a big believer that if you follow me, I'll follow you back. Instagram, Art by Studio B. If you punch in Instagram on Facebook, just Art by Studio B, all one word. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook. I'm Studio B. I also have a website, www.artbystudiob.com. You can find me there, and all the links and everything are linked up to, I think, the Instagram. They linked me up to Facebook or whatever.
And we're following him on all that social media, so if you miss it, contact us so we can get you hooked up with him, too.
Leo Phoenix. If you punch in Leo Phoenix, you can find me on Facebook. And I also have a completely separate Facebook for my comics, Skullflap Comics. Which is attached to the to my other Facebook, so you can find me. And like I said, if you follow me, you'll see all the progress. You'll see where I go, what I'm doing, everything that's happening. I want to kind of brand myself a certain artist because I'm not a true collage artist, but I kind of branded myself, a what was it? I even forgot. Some type of pop cut artist or something. I don't know. It's on one of my business cards. It's kind of hard to kind of assess if people are. You're not an actual collage artist. I said, no, it's not true collage.
Right.
It's this and that.
It's like pop art, and in some
aspects,
it's
a pop cut artist. Something it's pop art.
Yeah, right.
But it's made out of paper.
Right.
So one day I'll coin a term and I'll go with it.
Pop cut. I could see. Yeah.
Something like that. So I have it down on one of my business cards. It's just, I just don't use it. I just pass the business cards out. But, it's been well received. People that have seen it live like it. So I'm just going to keep doing it. I think with the storyline, with the comics coming out, once I do the 5 issues here, I've already published 2, 3, and 4. They're not out anywhere. You can actually buy the issues in the. I think I don't even know if they're in the shop yet on my website. But if you do visit the studio, I do have the issues there. Issues for Sypha, the comic book, are 3 and 4 are out. I put out 3 and 4 purposely that way. I've written 1, 2, and 5 already. Mm-hmm. I'm illustrating number 1. Once I do the first 5. I'll be putting them all together in a graphic novel and a hardback. First 5 issues will be all together in one with the whole storyline up to that point. And then I'll start writing the second segment, which will be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mm-hmm. But that's the idea. I've already written the 4 Lucy's Dream book series. Lucy's Dream, the first book's out. The second one, Billy's Tire Goes Pop, it will be out probably in the next 2 months. 3 and 4, Lucy's Dream Big Balloon Race and Roy's Roaring Journey, they're also written. So they'll be coming out like extensive every 8 months through at least through the summer of 2018. And then hopefully from this point to that point, I'll be writing some more. But the next 3 Lucy's Dream books are all rhyming scheme. They're shorter stories, rhyming schemes. Mm-hmm. So I think they're pretty cool. So it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. So
awesome.
So I'm setting myself up and just getting out there. I think I need the big stage right now. I really need to get out there. Like I said, I don't mind telling my story once to 1,000 people, but I want to actually just say it once to 1,000 people.
Right.
To kind of spread the word out a little bit quicker and. Get a bigger following and, get that fan base and get that movie, get those cartoons going.
Well, hopefully we can help a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
Modest,
yeah.
modest show.
We definitely are yelling from the rooftops because in the sense that I really, like I said, when I saw your art across the hall there, I was drawn to it. I mean, it
sounds like a love story.
It spoke to me. I mean, in the sense that I like. She'll tell you I like color, mm-hmm. and it inspires me musically, and And so the opportunity to walk over there and to see your art firsthand, and then, to start to talk to you, and once again, she will tell you, when I tell you that I have a good vibe about you, that speaks volumes, because I don't just say that to just anybody. It's because in this day, I guess it's hard to just find people that
I don't think I've ever known anybody this cool.
Yeah, well, you definitely have the cool factor.
God, I'm such
Do
a
I
square.
really, man? Because I don't feel cool.
Yeah,
when it's
I just feel old.
Well, I feel old too. It's funny you say that, because
touch.
I had the before I did the career day with the kids up in Elsick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually doing some other stuff with some other teachers that come in earlier for next year. They're going to be, I think there are some. The kids might have some issues, so they'll be playing out the Lucy's Dream story while I tell the story.
Oh.
So it's going to be pretty cool. And that's for another show. But I lost my frame of thought going there. But anyway,
you're cool in our books. And
I remember now.
Okay,
I'm
good. See,
sorry.
I knew I could jar you.
The kid, you jolted my memory. See, that's the old age right there. No, the kids from Elsick, they come in, and before I did the career day there, they came in, and the teachers invited me, but I did a couple of presentations, and the second group of kids come out, and they just thought I was the coolest guy. And one of the kids pulls out his phone. He says, "Man, can you sign this?" I said, "No, kid. I'm going to ruin your phone. I'm nobody." He goes, "No, you're going to be famous." The other kid comes over. "Hey, can you sign my shirt? I'm going to take it off. I'm going to go wash it. I'm going to frame it. You're going to be famous." I said, Mina, this is the kind of stuff that keeps you going, because these kids believe in you, and this is what this is what artists needs.
Right.
Sometimes you might not make the sales as big as you want, but you have that inspiration from somebody that might not have the money to buy it,
right,
but they inspire you to continue on. And that's when these kids, "Oh, you're so cool," and then you call about the cool factor. I don't feel like I'm cool. I try to be who I am. Be representative of the art as a package, and that comes out as cool, and that's great. That more power to me. But I try to stay floored level to a certain degree, and not with the Johnny Walker Blue either. I'm just saying, I just try to stay even keel across the board. And if I come across cool, then that's great. If not, then hopefully the artwork, the stories, and everything. Just a quick deal on Billy's Tire Goes Pop. That's a book that I wrote, and hopefully I'll be heading out there once I get that book in my hands, is to really hit the hospitals, the kids' hospitals. Because in that segment, Billy goes through Thornville, which is a segment in Lucy's Dream where B-52 Sam tells him, "Be careful. Go and inform the balloon brigade that the sunblockers might be on the horizon. But last time he went to Thornville, you had a flat, so be careful." So I took that segment and wrote in a rhythmic sense, rhyming scheme. Billy goes to Thornville. He gets a flat tire. He gets scared. He fixes it. But then he finds out that he can continue his journey. So that applies to everyone, even to me as an adult when I'm having a problem. Mm-hmm. Look, man, Billy had a problem. He fixed it, and he moved on. Same thing with you kids. You guys are here, but they're fixing you up, and your flat tires are going to be fixed, and you're going to move forward. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole message behind that. It's almost a poor man's Dr. Seuss. So maybe it becomes a rich man Dr. Seuss. I don't know. But the version of that, but I feel like it's a very clear-cut rhyming scheme, story set. And the next three books, just a quick note that something that it's going to have a little new twist in those next three books. It's going to have a parent page on the back, to where if the child's in bed and they want to read them a story, they don't have to flip through the story. They don't have to flip through the pages. It'll have that parent page in the back with the whole story.
Nice.
So that's a little twist with the next three books that Lucy's Dream series has. So I'm excited, and I'm going to get with some of these people that are at the hospitals and hopefully get some sponsors and pick up some of these books so we can give these books away and show the kids that, hey, look, man, Billy did it. You can do it too.
Well, Leo, we're glad that you're a part of our universe.
Well,
we see great things for you, and we look forward to seeing you among the stars.
Well, I really appreciate you guys giving me this opportunity, being the first guest here at Space Universe, and I have a big mouth, and I like to talk a lot, so I'll be pushing you guys a lot too, just like I do all the other guys that have helped me, Kara Media and all those guys, to get where I'm at this point. I'm hoping to become bigger and better known, and as I move up, you guys move up with me.
Cool. All right, Sir Lana, looks like we're at the top of the hour, which is closing out the program. Is there any housekeeping we need to do before we?
Well, we should have discussed that earlier between us, because
I think isn't it next week that we're talking about transhumanism?
Well, let's go with that. Let's try to do it.
Okay.
Let's try to do it. Let's talk about transhumanism. What is it? What does it mean? Should we be bothered by it? Is it likely to happen? Should we put a stop to it?
All that good stuff.
Yeah. Do you want to be a Borg?
Or do you want to be a snowman?
Do you want to build a Borg man?
Anyway, so on that magical note, I would like to thank our guest, Leo Phoenix, for coming in.
He's getting hearts in the chat, Leo.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. I need all the loving I can get.
And so on that magical note...
That's another story.
Yeah, and we probably need to bring you back for it, too.
Yeah, I'll come back.
Yeah, cool.
That'll be fun.
Awesome.
He knows where we live now.
Yes, exactly. So say goodnight, Sir Lana.
Good night, Sir Lana.
Spaceboy Universe is hosted by Spaceboy and Sir Lana. Executive producer is Sir Lana. Social media producer is Dennis Koch. Associate producer is Lee Ann Cordes. Music production is Spaceboy of SpaceboyMusic.com. Special thanks goes out to Lee Ann K, K28, Mark S, and Bob N. This has been a Spaceboy Universe production. Support the universe by exploring Spaceboy Universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lana. Sweet dreams, Space Cadets.